All right. I think that is enough of that. I thought this was the perfect representation of Chad Daybell. He is just a goofy, evil, irritating, annoying creepazoid. So I ask you, did I choose the proper music to represent this video? Right? I mean, he is just a joke and a half. So I have not left behind the old Chadster. No. It's still the Chadster. He's still just as odd and strange and peculiar as he has always been. But I thought it appropriate, now that we're entering the season of the trial, it's a really good time to focus on the Chadster's evil side. So I've decided to name him. I mean, look, come on, this guy's got all kinds of names, all right? My favorite, I don't even know where it came from, but it's the perfect. My favorite is Chins, Chins. I love that name for Chad. Chins. We have always called him the Chadster because he's just, like the 1950s, stereotypical, I guess, nerdy, but really kind of low IQ, out of touch with reality. So we're looking at a trial. If y'all can believe it, 3 years we've been waiting for this. So we're looking at a trial finally. And believe it or not, yes, in fact, that trial will be broadcast. Can you believe? Now, let me say this. The judge has gone from allowing us these beautiful like courtroom images like this, right? This is what we're used to when we have court TV, correct? With court TV, you can see the people, you can judge their reactions by their facial expressions and such. But in fact, this judge has sort of taken a unique, I guess, and different approach to this problem. And he has set up a YouTube channel of his own. That will be the only place that one can see the trial. It will be done by a courtroom camera that somebody he hired, an officer of the court, will be in charge of that camera. The camera doesn't move. It doesn't zoom in on faces. It doesn't switch off between, defense table to prosecution table to witness. None of that. And it looks like they're using technology from the 1950s. So the net effect is that the people take on a demonic looking quality. Like when you try to zoom in, they just look demonic because they're so digitized, and the camera is horrible. Like the darks are super dark, the lights are super light, so they're just blobby. It's really hard to see. So, if you ask me, I think it's definitely better that we're able to at least see the courtroom, not just listen to the audio. I found that to be was very hard to get interested when you were just listening. Now, if I was driving somewhere, it was perfect, right? It was better. It was like listening to radio, talk show radio. So yes, I'm grateful that this trial is going to be broadcast. I'm grateful that the judge is trying to figure out a way around these problems, but just don't get too excited, because you're not really, it's not going to be like watching, Charlie Adelson's trial, where you could see every nuance, eye flutter and deep breath. And it won't be like that, but it won't be like listening on a radio. Okay, so got to stay focused on the good stuff that we are given. Now then, Lori was very interesting when she had her trial. She got very angry with her defense attorneys when they basically pointed the finger at the Chadster, or the darkest clown. She got mad about that. She got downright salty about it. She actually went in the back behind where all the offices and the holding cells were, and was yelling. And, she really showed out because Abercrombie said something ugly about her chatty waddy. Don't be talking mean about my Chadster. I believe, it's my prediction, we will not see the same thing when it is the Chadster on the hot seat. Oh, no. When the darkest clown is in the center ring of the Lori Vallow circus, he's not going to be noble. He's not going to be the perfect Romeo. He is going to be flapping his hands and screaming, she did it. I swear to God, she did it. I didn't do it. God knows I didn't do it. Lori did it all. That is what we are going to hear from John Pryor. That's my prediction. Okay. Now then, so I think it's a treat to be able to go back and watch the preliminary hearing, to reacquaint ourselves after this 3-year-long hiatus, to reacquaint ourselves with the players that are going to be active in this trial. But before we start down that road, we've got 2 weeks, you guys. The trial starts. Yes, could it be any better? April Fool's Day. I'm not making it up. So let's just call it Chad Fool's Day, or just Chad's Day. He is, in fact, the fool, correct? So, yeah, it starts on April the 1st, which I think is absolutely adorable. And I think there's very little hope that Chad Daybell will get off on these charges. That ain't happening. So even though this is a horrific, you can't get any darker than this. This is the worst. This man and woman, I don't even know why I'm humanizing them and call them a man and woman. These two demonic entities, they did the worst. They did the absolute worst that any human being can do. Lori defiled her brother by manipulating him with religion to kill these children, her children. And same exact thing with Chad Daybell, who killed his devoted, loving wife. And I think, it's my opinion, I hadn't heard anybody else say this, but in my opinion, I think on some level, Garth was placed there that night as a way to insulate Chad from getting charges. That if Garth were there to say, oh, I came right in when it happened, this is what it looked like, my dad had nothing to do with it, one of two things would happen. Either Garth serves as a sort of alibi for Chad, perhaps, in the death of Tammy, or maybe they had plans to make it look like Garth did it. So at this point, I wouldn't put anything past the darkest clown. I think he is evil personified. Now, in any other world, if we look at this, the psychological aspect of this, in any other situation, it's possible that Chad Daybell may never have been or become violent, correct? It's possible that he may not have gone down that dark and terrible road. I believe, in my opinion, I think Lori Vallow killed long before she ran across Chad Daybell. I am almost certain that she did in fact kill Tylee's biological father. And I think there would have been a couple of reasons for that. And I'm not going to go into this or else this video is going to be 5 hours long. But I think that her whole history, when you look back at the court cases that were tried here in Texas concerning the two children, she had a very long history of antisocial behavior at the highest level, narcissism. She is the perfect psychopath. She is that stereotypical psychopath. She's got the narcissistic side that she uses as a tool, but there's also a very dark and devious manipulative side. And depending on what's happening, that's what you see from her. And some of these women that were involved in the darkest clown's little sex cult, they talk about how, what's her name? Not Ceresia. What was the lady's name? Serena? Shoot. Because we didn't really know who she was until they started Lori Vallow's trial. What was that lady's name? Lori Vallow. Let me see if I can find it. Lori Vallow, witness, threatened violence. Remember, she said she would kill this woman. Elizabeth, is that? I didn't think it was. I thought it was something like Serena or Ceresia. Yeah, I can't find. Friend testifies Lori Vallow threatened to kill. Yeah, this is who. What's her name? Hold on, I found the article. I just need to find the name. You guys are so sweet to bear with me here. Audrey. There must have been another one with an S. Audrey Baratiero. Okay, so she said that, Lori, they were in the hotel room. I believe it was Mississippi. And, at first Lori's schmoozing, right? Trying to get what she wants, manipulate. And when the girl said, I'm done, and she tries to leave. Yeah, thank you, Judy Burgess. Appreciate it. When she tries to leave, then Lori says about how she would kill, how she was able to kill, which really made Audrey's blood run cold, right? So Lori is that psychopathic deviant, where she's heavy on the narcissistic traits and definitely high in sociopathy. She's scary kind of girl. And I do believe that there is evidence that, even some of it is anecdotal, but there are the types of stories that definitely, if you know anything about abnormal psychology, it's the kind of thing that kind of makes your blood run cold and think, okay, this is a killer. I mean, we don't really know at what age she began killing, but it's very strange that her own sister died. It's very strange that her brother, who goes on this killing spree, killing Tammy, killing the two kids, it's very strange that same exact brother is running around with his murdered sister's credit cards afterwards. So I kind of believe that Lori was manipulating Alex a long time. I think she probably did use sex to manipulate Alex, and I think that she was already very practiced in the world of eliminating the thing that was keeping her from what she wanted. And so Lori's kind of crazy, you know, getting hooked up and connected to a charismatic kind of religious culty kind of guy, even though I think he was very goofy. I don't think he was very socially inept, right? I mean, so I think he was socially inept, but for her to zero in on him, because let's face it, religion is a very powerful control button. She zeroed in on him, offered up her sexual prowess and appearance to motivate him to follow her path, and he just fell over his heels saying, absolutely, I'll do whatever you want me to do, goddess. And then, a nightmare was born. So, you could even hear the disbelief in Colby's voice in that phone call talking to his mom. He's just in utter and complete disbelief that the mother that raised him and loved Tylee and JJ, that she turned out to be this monster. You can hear the disbelief in his voice. So I think, this was a perfect storm of sorts. I think she was the killer already, but I think Chad may never have harmed another person, except given this one situation where he was being heavily manipulated in a sexual way, something he had not really ever, experienced before. He was fairly vanilla, as they say. And I think he fell in it. He couldn't. He's a follower. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to manage Lori and her psychopathy. He didn't know how to manage her sexual manipulation. He just didn't know what to do with it all. And together, they just created a nightmare on the magnitude of Warren Jeffs. And you say, well, what do you mean? Because Warren Jeffs wasn't anything like these two. Well, maybe we're assuming, but I'm a little curious about just how much sexual activity, or let me temper that a little, sexual interest that perhaps Melanie Gibb had for Chad. And perhaps she's a little bit miffed that Lori was the one that captured, Chad's member, right? The storm. Okay. Melanie Gibb wanted the storm, people. All right. Grab a hold of that lightning bolt. Okay. But Melanie didn't get there. Lori got to the lightning bolt first, and the rest is history. All right, so let me change screens. Hold on, please. So I think what we'll do to get us in the mood, to prepare us, to remind us of all of the players, and to get us, the facts that we learned early on 3-4 years ago, the facts that we learned early on, to bring them back into our awareness. I think tonight we'll go through Melanie Gibb's interview with Nate Eaton. And then after we do that, then we're going to continue on with the Chad Daybell preliminary hearing. Oh, he's so creepy, Black Rose. I'm with you, girl. He is the darkest clown. No doubt about it. So how does that sound? Does that sound like a good way to spend the next hour or so, is kind of going back through Melanie Gibb? Because I think what you're going to notice, Melanie Gibb's story, well, didn't it go through some changes? there were various iterations of her story, what wasn't it? This was the first time, what we're going to watch tonight. This was the first time that we got a picture of Melanie Gibb, the relationship with Crazy Lori and Goofy Chad. And then as each individual step moving closer and closer to Lori's trial happened, Melanie's story morphed. She changed a little bit until finally the woman that we heard up on the stand during Lori's trial, she has zero resemblance to this woman. So I just thought that it might be interesting if, I was going to do it anyway for myself. And I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe a few of the friends, from the channel, maybe a few of you guys wanted to do the same thing. I know, my heart goes out to Riley. I'm just livid about the way this thing was handled. I do think it sounds like he was roofied. And I think we could do better. I think maybe the bars and the clubs, maybe when they have somebody in that kind of shape, maybe there should be some sort of an agreement to call them an Uber or call the police. One of the others. So they can either be taken home if they can remember where they live. And if they can't remember where they live, if they can't remember what their hotel is, then let a police officer decide, are we going to take them to the jail until they sober up? Or are we going to take them to a hospital, get their stomach pumped? I don't think we can just keep tossing them out on the street, especially in some of these towns where it is a vacation destination, because there's a lot of people looking to exploit vacationers and whatnot, and it can be very dangerous. So, yeah, my heart goes out to Riley. Same thing with Sebastian. Look, I've got a few thoughts. Here's what I'm willing to say. He had autism, a moderate to possibly worse, in terms of how badly it affected him. We have parents in here in our channel that have autistic kids that, are affected to a moderate degree or more, correct? What do you guys think? Is your child who has got a moderate level of autism, who relies on rituals and schedules, is your child going to break his daily schedule by just walking out the door with the flashlight into the dark? They don't do that. Now, some of them are runners. Some of them do what I call picking breadcrumbs. And what that means is they're not really aware. They're not really in touch of their surroundings. They get really focused on very small details. And so they'll follow something of interest, will sort of pull them, and they'll focus really hard on what they're interested in. And that can sometimes lead them away. So that can happen. But I think for most, when the sun goes down, they want to be in their nest. They need to feel a cocoon. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So it's a little uncomfortable. I don't know what happened, but I do know that about, autism. All right. So, and there are other terrible stories. Madeline Soto, that has not completely worked itself out. I think before that's over, we're going to find out that Stefan probably was a part of a larger ring that was producing child pornography, and hopefully there'll be a lot of arrests, is what I'm hoping for. So, all right, so here we go. We're going to crawl back into the Chad Daybell thing. We got 2 weeks to get up to snuff, to recall and remind ourselves of all the players in this ghastly story. And so we will start with one Melanie Gibb, who I think she had the hots for old Chatty Watty. I think she wanted the chatster. I think she was mesmerized by the lightning bolt. But she lost to her rival. That's right, the Wicked Witch of Arizona. Here we go.
To you, and you've been hard to find.
I know.
Would it be fair to say that you've been in hiding?
Yes.
Why?
When you realize that the people that you know and you're close to and love have been involved in something that has to do with kidnapping and people dying.
Now, right off the bat, I have a problem. Who knows what my problem is? When you realize the people you know and love, when you realize those people, not me, I wouldn't. The people I love were involved in kidnapping. Well, then, you get scared, but not me. I did it. Not me. People I love did it. I would never do that. No, I can tolerate other people being murderers. I can tolerate the people I love being murderers. Not me. Not me. I didn't. Don't misunderstand this, Nate. I'm not saying that I had anything to do with it. I just prayed. I just met with all the other ladies that wanted the lightning bolt, and we just prayed that, harm would come to people. But we didn't actually do anything. Silly, right? It's so silly right off the bat. On hindsight, knowing the story now that we know, when we listen to this, it's just silly. Like, her words are just silly.
And you've been hard to find.
I know.
Would it be fair to say that you've been in hiding?
Yes.
Why?
When you realize that the people that you know and you're close to and love have been involved in something that has to do with kidnapping and people dying, you start to think, oh my gosh, are they going to come after me? Like, everything closes in.
Yeah, kind of like when the cops were looking for you, Melanie, and you waited how long to call them back? They were trying to verify if JJ was with you. And what did you do? You interfered with an investigation, didn't you? I'm sure you did worry that things were closing in on you.
And you start to think about your own safety, and you start to think about what really happened. And could this really be true? I had all kinds of fears. What the media would say about me.
What the media said about you.
If they would say it the way I want to say it, like I'm saying it now, I wasn't ready.
So why are you ready today?
Because I faced all the fears, and then I decided that the truth was more important than what I wanted.
I got my story together. I got all my story together, and David Warwick helped me. And we double checked, and we kept reading the newspapers. And I think now we have a story that will keep me and David in the clear. Even though we were there miraculously the night that little JJ died, that's okay, because we have our story now.
And I needed to do it for those that have passed on, that justice may be served. I think it's fair to Charles and JJ and Tammy and Tylee that someone is standing up for what happened to them. And I do care for them, and I care for the families that are involved.
And is that your goal in talking today?
Who are you trying to convince, Melanie? I care, and I do care. Like, who's she arguing with? She's arguing with herself.
I care for them, and I care for the families that are involved.
And is that your goal in talking today?
My goal is to speak to the things that have gone on, and also to speak to many that believe their story of some of the things we're going to talk about zombies, to being a part of the 144,000, to multiple probations. These things do need to be discussed to those.
It's a real shame that Jason Mao doesn't want to talk about it, right? It'd be cool. It'd be very interesting to hear what Jason Mao thought about zombies.
that do follow those teachings. And so I have a lot of perspective on that.
Would it be fair to say you know Chad and Lori better than anybody?
Probably.
And you know their beliefs.
Yep.
You know their activities. You know more about this story probably than anybody else other than them.
Yeah, I think so.
You told me the other day on the phone that someone told you you needed to get an attorney. And what was your response when they said, have you gotten an attorney?
Well, how I responded to you is why do I need an attorney if I'm telling the truth? God
But
is on
are
my
you
side.
telling the truth?
So
That's
let's go
what
back
we
a few
really
years and
wanna
talk about
know.
Chad Daybell.
Okay.
How did you meet Chad?
The first time I met him, he was at a conference or an event speaking about his last days dreams and visions. And
Hey, calm in the chaos. Yeah, the trial starts April Fool's Day. You can't make that up, right? I mean, it is perfect. So, yeah, the darkest clown, his trial starts April 1st, April Fool's Day.
I just walked up to him and introduced myself to him.
Was that in Rexburg?
I think the first time I met him might have been at a camp up in Ogden, I think. Somewhere in that area.
In northern Utah.
Northern Utah.
Were you impressed by what he had said there at the conference? Is that why you wanted to talk to him, or was it just a casual, good job?
I wanted to meet him because I thought his dreams were interesting. And so
I liked his lightning
and when I
bolt.
met him, I thought he was a really nice guy. And anytime I saw him was at an event.
At what point did you become closer than just seeing him at events or, hearing him speak?
So when Lori and him met, that's when I started to get to know a little bit more.
Tell me how you met Lori.
So I was teaching a class at church one evening, and she was there, and she introduced herself to me.
And what was that encounter like?
She was very excited to hear the things I was teaching. And so when I went out to the hallway, she came up to me and introduced herself. And she told me about a lot of personal experiences that she had that were spiritual in nature. And we just hit it off.
So from there.
Now I want you to imagine, okay? Just imagine that you go to, a Bible study, right? And there's someone there who's talking Bible study stuff. And then there's a break and the teacher goes out in the hallway and you rush out to tell this complete and total stranger that you were playing with the Ouija board that weekend and Jesus started talking to you through the Ouija board. Do you think that would happen at your church? Like the church you go to, would you want people to know you were playing with the Ouija board? Yeah, no, you wouldn't. This little story that Melanie concocted, this is not accurate. I'm certain of it. Because here's why I say that. Because these discussions of past lives and what being married to other people, things like that. These are topics heavily frowned on by the Mormon church, right? I mean, there's people that have been kicked out for these types of ideas. They're not mainstream Mormon. In fact, the Mormons have said, don't even utter anything about this nonsense because we don't want the world to think we're a bunch of crazy cult members. So do you really believe that one woman sitting in a class, the leader of the class, they just casually walk out in the hallway to take a break and begin sharing with each other, oh my God, you were alive in 1500? Girl, so was I. Okay, so Melanie, I don't know what the truth is, but I think that this story that you're telling is heavily inconsistent with what I would think that typical Mormon conversation would be about. I just don't, I can't see it. I don't believe it.
There, a friendship developed.
Yep.
And what was that relationship like?
Wow.
In the beginning,
yeah.
What was it like?
So we talked often about our experiences that we had spiritually. and we talked about some of our trials that we've overcome, and we talked a lot about the second coming as well and how excited we are for the things that we've been studying and learning. And so just a lot of interest in that area.
So they're
And
ready
we
for
just
the end of
talked
the
about life
world
and
so
being
they
a
can use
mom
their
and,
survival skills.
you know, JJ being a handful, you know, being autistic and what that was like. And, you know, we just talked about our life.
Do you remember what year that was, Melanie, when you met her?
Yeah, that was 2018, about October.
October of 2018. So
Mhm.
you saw JJ, you saw Tylee, you knew that she was
Absolutely.
raising the kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And at what point did she meet Chad? Because you knew Chad and you knew Lori, but they were separate relationships.
Correct. So I met her first. Well, I mean, I met him, you know, like.
Yeah, see, they never did work out this story about who met who first. There were a lot of contradictions, even going through the trial. There were contradictions. So we still don't know that. But let me just say this. Who remembers when John Pryor was putting a lot of pressure on Melanie during the preliminary hearing? He was putting a lot of pressure on her, saying things like, you were close like sisters? Would you say you were close like sister wives? And Melanie never said yes. I mean, she had to turn herself into multiple knots to avoid saying yes to something that just really didn't seem consequential or important at all. And so that really bothered me. I kept thinking about that exchange and kept thinking, you know, it was so weird the way that John Pryor kept saying sister wives, and Melanie just like, no. And then I got to thinking, oh gosh, I wonder if the Chadster was into plural marriages. I believe the Chadster probably married Melanie Gibb and Audrey and Serena or Ceresia or whatever her name was. I kind of think they may have been doing the whole plural marriage thing, because for the fundamentalist movement, that is a, what do they call it? A proclamation of God. That you have all these different wives, that you have to have as many children as possible, that's part of being, you know, a pious, godly man. Is that what we're going to find out in Chad Daybell's trial? It's very interesting that he kept saying, you're as close as sisters, like sister wives? And Melanie said, no. There may be something there. I'm just taking a guess.
Within years, but didn't know him super close or anything like that. So then I meet her, and then her and I decided that we're going to go to an event in St. George. And so we drove down together. And then he was selling his books and speaking, and so that's when they got to meet. So that was probably October, November, somewhere in that time frame of the same year,
2018.
Mhm.
So did you introduce them?
I don't know if I did or she just went up to the table. I can't recall.
Are you
And
sure?
was there anything
Are you sure, Melanie?
unusual or magical or different about when they met?
So we were there for 2 or 3 days, and I think he was there for 2 days. And she talked to him a lot about his books, and so she asked a lot of questions, and she was very interested in what he thought, and she was interested in what she knew, and so they just started talking about these.
Notice how she never says that Chad was into Lori. Notice how it's always that Lori was coming on to Chad, that Lori was putting the moves on Chad, that Lori showing Chad interest. Never that the Chadster was trying to pitch woo with Lori the psychopath. Is that jealousy, perhaps?
She talked to him a lot about his books, and so she asked a lot of questions, and she was very interested in what he thought, and she was interested in what she knew, and so they just started talking about these different beliefs that generally are not something you learn in church. And so they started kind of develop that connection right there.
And
And they totally left me out, and they didn't talk to me, and I hate her. She's a mealy mouthed ninny, and I was Chad's love interest until Lori the hoe came along. You can just kind of hear that alternate conversation happening in the back of her mind, right? If you think I'm on to something here, put a 1. If you think it's nonsense, put a 2. Pitching woo, calming the chaos. Yes. I think old Melanie, I think she was waiting for the storm.
were you kind of intergrained with all of it right there as they're talking about these things?
I am going in and out, and I'm not sure exactly all the things they're saying.
I see.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything unusual. It would be if you
Agreed.
found somebody at the church
Pisces.
that had similar beliefs and you were talking about things, or was it a step further?
It was a step further. It was discussing the things that were not something you would talk at church. It was something that you would talk closely with not a lot of people listening.
Oh, not out in the hallway?
Did you know that Chad?
Not out in the hallway, Melanie, with someone you just met? You wouldn't talk about it there either, would you? So what's the real story on how and when you met, Melanie?
Chad had a wife and 5 kids in Rexburg.
Mm-hmm.
And did Lori know that?
Yes.
And was Tammy ever with Chad?
No.
She didn't come with him to the events?
No.
And did his children?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
No, he was there with me. He only wanted to be with me. And then he ended up with Lori the hoe.
Okay. So where did their relationship go from there?
So after spending much time talking those 2 days, we went back to Arizona, and he came down to Arizona when it was the next event, which was in November.
She had nothing to say.
And many people, so some of my friends, some of Lori's friends, and then Chad all got to stay in her house. It was one of the larger houses she had, so she had plenty of room throughout her house. And so they spent some time talking, and he spent some time talking to us as well.
Everybody stayed in this house.
That's right.
Chad, Lori, you. Was Charles there?
No, he went out of town.
He was out of town.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have much interaction with Charles?
A little bit.
And what was that like?
So when I did interact, it was just like the first time I came over, I believe we did a barbecue, and he was cooking barbecue. That seemed that something that he was good at, according to both of them. And
okay, y'all, I just got to give you a little insight into the great country of Texas. No man is worth his salt if he can't barbecue. It's like a thing here. Okay. I don't understand it. I just sit and watch in amazement as men get together and turn barbecue into French cuisine. I didn't even know that you could take a piece of bacon and turn it into candy. But these guys in Texas can do miraculous things with a slab of meat. So I truly believe that Charles was probably very good at barbecue.
And there was swimming in the pool with the kids. And he seemed like just kind of a nice guy, just happy to see us, happy to meet us. I don't know. It was an enjoyable conversation. He was talking a little bit about his conversion to the church, and he seemed to be pretty excited about it.
How would you describe his and Lori's marriage?
There seemed to be some arguing often when I would see them together. So he was trying to do things to help her and please her, and she seemed like she was struggling to be happy by that. Like she seemed a little often frustrated with him. They had something going on that I didn't quite understand.
Please remember, this is the woman that helped Lori lie to the police in Gilbert, and basically, I think, helped her avoid getting that psychological evaluation that Charles thought that she was getting. So don't let her fool you. She's proven she's not a little sweetheart. She did some pretty nasty things.
Understand, but there there seemed to be a lot of contention between the two of them.
Did you ever see him lose his temper or become irate or angry with Lori or the kids?
Nope.
Did you ever see her become upset or angry with Charles?
Like vocally, I could see her, being upset, and he was frustrated back, so he might have had a little bit of that stress in his voice when you argue. So I would say just that arguing kind of a upset voice, if
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't there at the house the day that you guys were all there for that conference.
Right.
The conference happens, and what happens from there with Chad and Lori?
They just spent time talking about things. They went on a walk together, or
I think if Lori hadn't been there, he would have been with me. And I think he really loved me. He didn't love Lori, but she's just an oh-ho. And so she did what oh-hos do. And I hate her. I don't like her at all. And he doesn't like her because all he did when they had a date was take her on a walk. So with me, he took me out to nice restaurants and he just took her on a walk and to the bedroom. She's a bad person and I hate her.
Jog in the morning together. I do recall that. All the things they talked about. It's like so personal. It's so hard to share with the world. You know what I mean?
Because
so it was very personal.
Crazy when they were,
some of it.
when they were talking sweet nothings to each other.
Some of his understandings about multiple lives and things of that nature. And but at that point, he had already shared with her when they met in St. George that they had been married multiple times before.
Oh my!
So that was established when they first met.
Chad told Lori when they first met that they had been married before.
Not in this, right now in this earth life, but in multiple earth lives.
In a previous life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my!
And did Lori have an issue with that?
No, she seemed to understand that teaching already, that she had learned already through podcasts. So it wasn't something that was
now
foreign.
I believe, listen, guys, I have to tell you this. I think these podcasts were the main vehicle that brought this group together. And of course, we know that Jason Mao was a big part of these podcasts, correct? Before Melanie and Chad and Lori, before they came together and knew one another, Mao was already doing these podcasts. And then he brings Melanie into the fold. She's doing it. And then at a later date, Chad Daybell comes along. So I do not believe Melanie's original story for how they all met, because I believe that they're protecting Jason Mao and those higher up in the organization. I think that Melanie Gibb and Chad and Lori, I think for whatever reason, they've done a really good job keeping the police focused on the immediate circle instead of following up through the chain of these crazy people with these odd ideas. When you get a group of people act with impunity as these people did, they've been given the kiss of the ring somewhere. Someone empowered them to do this. Someone empowered Lori Vallow to tell people that she was part of the 144,000. Someone empowered Chad Daybell to go around trying to get money so that he could build his church of the 144,000 right there in Gilbert, Arizona. Not Gilbert, Arizona. Up in Idaho. Who did it? Who were the powerful people that built up these two psychopaths to a level that they were acting out in crazy fashion? They didn't do that on their own, y'all. We're missing a link. There is a link between Lori and Chad and Melanie, David Warwick. There's a link between them and then the public face of the Mormon church. I believe it in my heart and soul. And I think Jason Mao has some very interesting connections to some very interesting people. I think that his questioning that he underwent by the police, well, let's just say I'm not sure they're altogether finished with Jason Mao.
Foreign, right?
So Chad's teaching this group about multiple lives. Is that what it means? Multiple probations? Does that mean previous life?
That's right.
So he's talking about multiple probations. He and Lori have been married before.
That's right.
And you all are discussing this. And is that when you decided to form a group? Is that?
No, there wasn't.
Diane, yes. Jody Hildebrandt, correct? What about that crazy insanity? The way that Jody Hildebrandt was operating, not at the end, but initially, it was so unethical. I mean, I'm sure it was even illegal according to Idaho law. I don't know Idaho law, but we wouldn't really be able to do that here in Texas. That they were, thank you, appreciate it. She was getting, now she's a licensed individual at the time, right? She's licensed by the state of Idaho. The church was making referrals to her. No problem with that. That's okay. The church is making referrals, but then guess who's turning around and paying her for working with those referrals? The church. It was a really dangerous business model. And now, of course, we've learned that she was it was like she was treating these kids like they were prisoners of war. The torture, I don't want to get into that because it literally made me very nauseated learning about, what they did to these kids. So anyway, there are many instances where you get these people, they're not quite fundamentalists. They're not quite at the Warren Jeffs level of insanity. They still got connections to the official church, but they begin to be very controlling, and they begin to have some very disturbing types of ideas and beliefs. There's a Native American Indian in Oklahoma who got tied up in all this, friends with Jason Mao and whatnot. He's a very well-respected man, very well-respected Mormon. He's got some weird ideas. He's got some very odd ideas, and he is sanctioned by the Mormon Church. Salt Lake City loves him. So I think, Jason Mao, truth, dude, if you're listening, you got some connections to Charles Vallow and Lori and other people I will not name. You've got some connections. This is very odd, very strange. It is very strange that you somehow ended up wiggling out of what happened in this Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell sex cult. It's very interesting how you managed to get out of that. That is, when the truth comes out, the facts, it is really something.
In any group, it was just him talking to people individually. He wasn't even trying to express it like, hey, let's start a group. Nothing of that language. So, a lot of people have different ideas about, is this a cult? Is this not a cult?
It is cult.
And so we can talk about that a little bit later. But
It's a cult, Melanie. Own it.
I would just say from the beginning, what it felt like to me, at least, is he was just talking to individuals, and he was very kind of private. And so he would talk to her, and then she would kind of share with us. So he wouldn't get overly involved talking to us. She would just more share what he would teach her to us.
And was she the only person that he was doing this with?
No.
There were others.
He did it with Melanie.
Other women?
That damn lightning bolt got her.
Men and women. I knew of it already, yeah.
And do you know, had he told other women that he had been married to them in previous probations?
I'm not sure about that.
But definitely
you are,
he had told
Melanie.
Lori that.
Right.
What was it like to witness this? I mean, did it seem like a normal relationship between the two of them, or did you think this might be going a little too far?
It was definitely different. The idea was definitely a new concept.
That you were excited about.
I'm a very open person, so I don't necessarily think it's not true. And before I just listened to what they said. I did.
Melanie, you were hiding your beliefs from your real church friends. You knew that it was nonsense, but you had the hots for Chad Daybell. You wanted the storm, and you jumped right on in. And then you got mad at Lori, even though you were trying to pretend to be her friend. And Lori knew enough to keep you just far enough away. You were going to be one of the fall people too, I think.
Did I 100% believe any of it ever? No, not 100%.
Don't lie.
So when you get introduced to something, you kind of just, let it marinate. And so I just listened to them talk about it.
Is that right? You just let it marinate, Melanie? Is that what you call it when two little kids get killed? Marinating? I don't think so, Melanie. I think the minute that my friend, even if it was my best friend that I met like when I was in the 8th grade, even if my best friend called me on the telephone right now today after all these years and said, "Oh my God, the cops are going to be calling you. I told them that you had my grandbaby and that he was staying with you for a few weeks, and just tell them that you took him to the movie." That's all you need to know. My best friend in the whole wide world that I would entrust my children, my granddaughter, I would entrust my whole life to this woman. She is as trustworthy as the night is long. If she called me and said something like that, you know what I'd do? The first thing I'd do is pick up the phone and say, "I hadn't got that grandbaby. I don't know why my best friend told you such a lie, but I'm telling you straight up, I don't have that child. I haven't seen that child. You better go and check her house because I don't have her." That is the way that would have happened. So I don't know what Melanie Gibb, I don't know how she feels like she's pulling the wool over the eyes of the entire nation. But this part of it, I think she just looks silly and foolish.
I mean, it was not something that I knew anything about until they shared it with me. So,
And not something that you had heard at church or in Sunday school or in a
Never.
manual anywhere.
Never. Yeah, it does not represent our church's teachings at all.
So they're going on jogs together. He's talking about these multiple probations. The conference ends. And what happens from there?
So he goes back home, and I just know that they're communicating on the phone every single day. I do know that.
Oh, that sounded a little jealous and snippy.
Did you ever think?
What do you think?
She would let.
Was it? What y'all think? Look at that look at that micro expression on her face. That was not a good memory there, Nate. Oh, you stepped off in that one. Y'all listen to her again. Does she sound like she might have some sour grapes? Because after all, the Chadster was supposed to be her lover until Lori the hoe showed up.
Probations, the conference ends, and what happens from there?
So he goes back home, and I just know that they're communicating on the phone every single day. I do know that.
Every single day. They're talking every single day. Now he's not talking to me. Before her, he would talk to me on the phone. Now he didn't have any time for me. In fact, I just had to wait day after day, even though the Chadster told me that he loved me and that he could love Lori. The truth is, he talked to her every single day and he never had time for me. I hate her.
That, she would let me know. Yeah.
Did you ever
rubbing
think,
it in.
she might be falling in love with him?
Well, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah,
they pretty much hit it off.
I knew she was in love. I knew she was in love with her. She is a mealy-mouthed, horse-faced ninny, and I hate her. But I love Chad. I love Chad so much, and he's a man of God, and I'm willing to share him if I have to. But I hate that Lori.
Did you wonder, hold on, she's married and he's married too, and they both have kids? Was that a thought you ever expressed to Lori?
Well, I did actually offer the idea. I'm like, why don't you just go ahead and get a divorce? And they were told that they weren't allowed to.
They weren't allowed.
And we now know why, correct? They were not allowed to get a divorce because then how would they collect the life insurance money when they knocked their spouses off? So in order to get life insurance money and the Social Security money, they kind of needed to be married when they killed them. So yeah, this was not a beautiful love story.
Not to.
Yeah.
Because of church teachings, or?
No, something that they received through the other side of the veil, how they would speak about it, and said, no, we're not allowed to do that.
So they received like a spiritual prompting or a revelation.
However he got his revelation.
However he got it.
Yeah.
Said, don't get a divorce.
Right. He wasn't allowed to, actually.
Was not allowed to get a divorce.
That's correct.
You said that it wasn't a group or a cult.
It was a cult.
But do you think it became that
Yes.
over time?
I guess it depends on what you believe those words
Oh
mean.
my
A lot of us don't
God,
understand.
Melanie, Lord have mercy. Just answer the man's questions and quit trying to make sure you look good at the end of this.
What those words mean. I would say it's teachings that you have the basic tenets of the gospel of Jesus Christ that we do as Christians, right? And then you have this doctrine that comes in that's not affiliated with any Christianity that I've ever read of. And it's not doctrine that comes from Jesus Christ. It comes from the adversary. And so that comes in and it's enticing because how many people do you hear even in the world that want to know about their future?
Cinnamon,
right? Or they want to know their fortune or something like that. And so it's enticing. So you keep going more and more into it. And then you get to more information and it gets you to ask questions that you shouldn't be asking. And then you learn these kind of things. And so you can call that what you want. I mean, I didn't see him forming any groups per se. Preparing people is not a cult. They're people, very nice people.
That, they're people that sure tore down their podcast off the internet very quickly. Did y'all notice that? In fact, a lot of YouTubers, they got whiplash trying to take some of these podcasts before Preparing a People deleted them all. Isn't that destruction of evidence? I'm just a little curious what you guys think. Why do you think Preparing a People, a group of very nice people, why do you guys think that they acted so quickly to destroy the evidence? Any thoughts on that? Very strange, right? Like, for example, let me give you a little bit of an example. Oh, they had thousands, Martian planet, thousands. Let me give you an example. We have our little channel here, right? We talk about, true crime, sometimes other things. I can promise you this. If my next door neighbor suddenly gets arrested for murder, I'm not going to come and destroy, tear down all my videos off of my YouTube channel. I'm not going to be like, I better take these down because someone I know got arrested for murder. I'm not going to do that. It's such a crazy answer. That the facts of the matter are as soon as this began to trickle out, as soon as this information began to trickle out, Preparing a People began tearing. First of all, they took the podcast down. That was immediately, wasn't it, Jason Mao? In fact, a few people thought that maybe you actually had begun removing those videos even before that actually identified Chad Daybell. But Jason Mao was on the case, buddy. He was there. So Jason Mao got his stuff down. Some of the wider reaching Preparing a People podcast and videos that did not include Lori Vallow, Melanie Gibb, or Chad Daybell, they stayed up just a little bit longer, but not much. And then they took all of their bulletin boards and everything. They took all of that and put it behind a paywall so nobody new could join. But then even that didn't work, and they had to like scrap the whole thing and start over with something else. So why would they react that way? Why would they do that? Let's go one step further. Let's say that some crazy person in our channel who, I don't know, somebody named Crazy Ann or Crazy Harriet or Crazy Ebenezer. Let's say one of them, Crazy Ebenezer or Crazy, what did I say? Crazy Ann. What if one of them goes and kills someone? I'm not going to take all my videos down. If the cops come to me and they say, hey, do you know Crazy Ebenezer? I say, in fact, I do. I know exactly who, or Big Ups. We know Crazy Big Ups. No, I'm kidding. I love you, Big Ups. You're awesome. Do you know Crazy Ebenezer? Yeah, I do. I know him. He's our friend. We love him. He's nice. He's great. He's interesting. Oh, well, he killed someone. We need to go through your videos, man. Need to go through your videos and look for evidence. You know what I'd say? I'd say, okay, what do you want me to do? You can have all of them. I don't care. Whatever you want. Even the ones I have set to private, I'm happy to let you look. And so it's quite perplexing and curious that when Lori and Chad and Melanie get themselves into this little pickle of a mess, that suddenly Jason Mao goes, up, wait, sounds the all points alarm. Take the podcast down now. If you have a copy of our podcast up, take it down now. It's pretty suspect. Jason Mao, it's sus to us. Yes, got that a little bit from Crime Circus. All right. Bertha. That's right. If Crazy Bertha decides to kill someone, we're not going to destroy our channel. But Jason Mao did. He gave the alarm. Take down the podcast, for God's sake. Jason, I thought that y'all were gatherers. I thought that was the whole point of this. Y'all were gathering souls to bring them to Jesus. Wasn't that the point? So if somebody in your midst kills someone, maybe you ought to leave all the evidence up to make the detectives' jobs easier. Unless you were trying to hide something.
That have an event they hold, and they have different speakers. He just happened to be one of them, and they had no idea that he had these belief systems, nor did he know anything, nor did they know anything about their Chad and Lori's relationship. They had no idea.
Yeah, so that was going on separate from the mainstream church and Preparing a People. It was this little thing.
Yeah.
Would you say that you got sucked into it?
Yeah.
Or brainwashed?
Oh, yeah. I was a total victim. For sure. Thank you, Nate. That is something I had not considered saying. But yes, Mr. Eaton, thank you so much for pointing out to the people, the good people, that I was not an active participant. I, too, have been victimized by Chad Daybell and that oh-ho Lori. I was sucked into the madness, Nate. I was victimized. They tricked me.
I don't know if the brainwash word is, I would say sucked into it. I don't know if you would call it a brainwash or not.
How often would you meet? Would you actually meet together? Or was this more done on the phone or on email or Facebook?
It wasn't anything that was planned. So I just spent a lot of time with Lori. So we spent every day together for a period of time, actually, especially when she left Charles that first time. It seemed like it was every day. It was close to every day. A lot.
Well, and see, there could be a reason for that, y'all. Because didn't she tell us that Lori was speaking to Chad every single day? You remember all that? And how, she wasn't getting any of Chad's attention anymore now that Lori was there. So if she wanted to get close to Chad because he was the object of her Twitterpation, then hanging out with Lori then would get her closer to Chad, and maybe she could flirt a little bit and try to remind Chad, hey, Chad, you remember me? Originally, you were picking me, remember? I kind of think that maybe Melanie was fairly Twitter-pated with the Chadster.
A lot of time together for at least a few months, and then it kind of spread out a little bit. I talked to her a lot personally because she was with me a lot, and he talked to her, but I didn't talk to him very often, just occasionally.
So
when
he'd
I'd get a
call
chance.
her, and because you were with her so much, you
Yeah.
knew what they were talking about.
Right, yeah, exactly.
How did you meet Alex and Zulema and Melanie?
I met Alex for the first time at Lori's house. He often came over to visit, and I think Melanie too. I met her at her house, and then Zulema I met at church.
Okay, so Melanie and Alex would come to the house while you were there with Lori, and
Mhm.
what was that interaction like? What was that relationship like?
It was kind of fun and enjoyable. Alex was fun, and he was a comedian kind of guy, and
I'm very disturbed about this, y'all. You see, you notice how as soon as he starts talking about Alex, watch her face, watch her
What was
demeanor.
that relationship like?
It was kind of fun and enjoyable. Alex was fun, and he was a comedian kind of guy, and we just talk about all kinds of stuff, sometimes.
Now, I'm going to ask y'all this. Does she seem like a woman who really liked Alex? Like, as she's remembering him, when his question prompts that whole set of memory, she doesn't have these micro expressions of irritation and jealousy like we saw when she was talking about Lori, correct? She looks like she genuinely likes him, that the memories that she's having of Alec Cox is like that he made her happy, he made her laugh. Can I ask you this question? Do you think that you could ever feel even the slightest remotely positive thing about someone that you knew murdered a kid, much less murdered two kids, much less murdered two kids that were his damn niece and nephew? How in the world does she sit there and interface with this memory in a way that is very lighthearted and loving? I don't know. I thought this was a very interesting moment for Melanie. Got away from her, in my opinion.
Sometimes spiritual stuff, sometimes non-spiritual stuff. It was in the beginning, it was just more casual because, Alex at this point didn't know anything about that until later on.
Would you say that Chad and Lori were kind of leaders, or at least they were working their way to be leaders of a group? a view of other people that might follow their teachings?
So ultimately, yes, they did believe that they were the head of the 144,000. So, that's scriptural. That word is scriptural,
No,
right?
that's screwy. That's what that is. That is
So, but
insane.
they believed that was what their assignment was. So, I guess in some sense, you could say that they were trying to find people that would fit that group individually.
Wait,
And all
wait,
along
wait, wait, wait. What did she say? That they were trying to find people, good people, that would fit that group. Do you guys know what the 144,000 is as a collective group? Do you know like how would you define the 144,000 from in the Bible, right? So the 144,000 are basically, they have a critical mission to prepare the world for Jesus's second coming, right? These are the most pious among the living. These are those that spiritually are the strongest and the purest. Correct? Okay, hold on a minute. Wait just a minute. So when people talk about the 144,000, these are people that are very special and they're very blessed in the eyes of the Lord. Correct? She literally just said that not, and she smiles because she thinks it's ridiculous that Chad and Lori are king and queen of the 144,000. But listen to what she says. She says that they were fulfilling their mission, which was to find people deserving to be part of the 144,000. Guess who was actually picked to be part of the 144,000? I give you one guess. Put it in chat. Who do you think that Chad picked to be part of the 144,000? Because she's so very special that way. Who knows? Who was it? She was a card-carrying member. Absolutely, Martian Planet. Yes. They said that Melanie, yes, her name begins with an M. Melanie was part of the 144,000. That is right. You have got that right. Melanie Gibb herself was hand chosen by the Chadster to be part of the 144,000. And it was Lori's job as messenger from the prophet Chadster for her to tell Melanie, you are one of us, Melanie. You are special. You are part of the 144,000 that's been talked about in the Bible for eons. You have found your people, Melanie Gibb. Do you notice the smile on her face, the narcissistic supply that she got in being able to say, I am part of the chosen?
They're going to church every Sunday.
To a point, and then she just stopped going after a while, after she felt that Charles was kind of chasing her with the papers to be signed for divorce. She kept running, and so I don't think she went to church. So that was.
And why was she running, Melanie? Tell me why she was running. Because she was going to kill him and get the life insurance money. And you had to have known about it, in my opinion only.
She hadn't gone to church in a long time, and if she did go, it was very rare.
But you were going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard anything?
Of course. Of course, Nate. Of course I'm going to church every time. I, Nate, am part of the 144,000. God expects me to be there.
About burner phones, 60 burner phones being used to communicate, or
I don't know that word.
There's
burner.
no
it's like a prepaid phone that you can go down to 7-Eleven and buy a phone and put 400 minutes on it. And then once it's done, you can get another one. It's not like you have a cell phone plan or anything. Did Laura use a lot of those type of devices?
Well, I know that she had about 3 phones, but they seem to be the same phones. So if she did those and threw them away, I don't know about that.
But she had 3 phones and was getting calls on all of them.
Yeah, it was hard to track her at times. You didn't know which
yes,
phone
she's
she
a
was
busy
gonna pick up.
girl.
Why did she need so many phones?
Well, she had one special phone that her and Chad would communicate with,
Okay,
and he
this
had a
is
special phone
so
outside of his cell
funny.
phone number. So it was
She
just
got
for
away
their-
from me. Hold on. Look at look at the look. What do you think about that micro expression? This right here, this is when she said, well, one of them she called Chad on. Tell me, is this a woman who loves Lori? Can we be honest here? She's so jealous of Lori, she couldn't stand it. She thought she was the one for Chad. I believe that in my heart. I do. Look at the contempt, disgust on her face when she says one of the phones was for Chad.
would communicate with, and he had a special phone outside of his cell phone number. So it was just for their personal communication.
So one specific phone for Chad and Lori to communicate with.
Yeah.
And why could they not communicate on their normal phone?
I guess in case somebody picked it up and saw their conversations.
Why do you think they were so secretive?
When you go to church in the temple, there's certain questions they ask you to see if your belief systems are consistent with the doctrine, and they were inconsistent.
So were
And
yours,
so-
Melanie.
That's the reason you're going to be secret about it, because you think you know something more than they do. That at least that's what was introduced, is this idea we know more. So
We know more. You see, as part of the 144,000, we, Chad's ladies, we know more than our church. We know more than the elders of our church. And so that's why we didn't want people knowing what we were talking about, what we were doing.
if that got out, people would think you were unusual or weird in the church.
Is
right?
that right? Is
And then
that
they would
right,
say, "Hey."
Melanie? Yeah. See, look at her. She's like, well, people would think we were weird, like if they knew what we were doing and saying. I mean, we weren't weird. We were on a mission from God, but people would think we were weird. Now I want you to watch Nate Eaton, watch his reaction. It's pretty funny.
Introduces this idea we know more. So
Watch.
if that got out, people would think you were unusual or weird in the church, right?
He's like, I know I do. I for sure think you guys are incredibly weird.
And then they would say, hey, I don't think that you're allowed to go into the temple because of these teachings. So you're going to keep that secret, right?
Latter-day Saints need, if they want to go and worship at the temple, they need to go see their religious leaders, their clergy,
Yeah.
every 2 years and get a recommend that allows you to go into the temple.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be living certain standards.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying Chad and Lori clearly were not living those standards, or at least following the doctrines being taught.
Correct.
And was Jason Mao? Because one of the iterations for how they all met, somehow Jason Mao met Lori in the temple. I'm telling y'all, there's still an awful lot we do not know. There's a lot we don't know.
Correct.
But they were still going to the temple.
Oh, yeah. That was her favorite place to go. So she did actually go to the temple, but maybe not to church.
She'd go to the temple, but not to church.
Yeah.
So did you know that their teachings weren't in line with the mainstream?
Yeah.
And did you talk with her about it?
Yeah.
And what was the reaction?
Well, when she taught me, she was leading me to believe they were true. So I didn't, there would be times where I'm like, do you think that's a good idea? Or do you think this is, those kind of thoughts? But I just kind of didn't voice a much opposition to it, but just more listened, just more listen.
she came very close, I think, right there to admitting that she believed what they were saying. And I think she caught herself at that point. But even then, she still didn't admit that she should have stood up and said, "This is insanity. What we're doing here is not okay. It's not even normal, much less okay according to our church's, standards and edicts. That this is wrong what we're doing." She knows she didn't stand up. But old Melanie, she rolls with the punches. You heard that expression, if you stumble, make it part of the dance. Well, I think Melanie probably has the t-shirt for that, because even like once this all came out, once the gig was up, once everybody knew about where JJ and Tylee were, what happened to Tammy and Charles, even Joe Ryan to some extent, she went from this that we see here, she went to, "Oh no, I didn't know they were doing that. I didn't want to be a part of it. I tried to stay away as much as I could." She did it was weird, and I didn't like the fact that the cops, the investigators, allowed her to do it. They know better than any of us just how involved she and these other women were. I think they should have all been held accountable, including that higher circle of people that we know, at least Jason Mao. There's a few other. I think definitely Julie Rowe should be implicated 100%. So, but they, I'm just a bystander. I'm just standing around the water cooler discussing this terrible event, or this series of terrible events. The reality is, the investigators and the attorneys, the prosecutors, they're collecting the evidence to get a guilty verdict, not to tell a blanket statement, right? Not to tell the whole thing from start to end. They got to just be really surgical and hone in on the people that they've got the evidence to get, and they may never get the others. So it's pretty chilling.
Was there ever a time where you thought, whoa, this is too much? This crosses the line?
Well, I always thought this is a little unusual, especially, we'll get in talking about later about the zombie thing, but that was definitely unusual. That was hard to completely believe.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it
really?
was quite unusual.
To completely believe, or even
Did you
marginally
feel, or
believe?
did they make you feel special or chosen?
Yes.
As they're teaching you these things, that you are one of the elect and you need to be with us?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that make you feel?
First I thought it was me, right? So first you have that feeling of, I don't feel like that's something, because I didn't get that personally from God, so I thought it was unusual. So she kind of had to keep talking me into it. That makes sense.
No.
Like, you really are, you need to believe this, and with much enthusiasm.
How did Lori describe your relationship with her?
I would say she would call me a best friend, or either a really good friend.
A sister.
And you all knew
wife?
each other in previous lives?
Well, she claimed that we did, but I have no memory of that.
They obviously
Why are
made
you
you
laughing
feel
about
very
it now,
special,
girl?
made you feel like you were elect, that you were chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And as things progressed, did you gradually come to really believe that and say, yeah, I am one of the chosen ones?
To some level, not 100%,
Wow,
but to
that's
some level.
crazy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Were their beliefs and this belief system written down or recorded in any way?
Yeah. There was paperwork that showed all the 12 apostles, to the Old Testament apostles, prophets, people in their the friends that they knew currently, to maybe some movie stars or people, just in general. They had maybe 4 pages. I don't know how many pages. And that was created by Chad. And he would say, well, these are who they are. This is what lives they live. This is how many times they've been on. So yes, it was a whole document. It was a whole plan. I mean, they
Very
would write down on paper, like,
delusional.
this is how many lives, this is what it needs to get to this level. You need to go to this many. I mean, it was quite the plan, if that makes sense. It was quite the
detailed
list. I mean, it was.
I think it is very interesting that he included, excuse me, that he included like movie stars. I think there was like a professional baseball player on the list. But you know why he did that? He did that to influence other people, right? That you use the rich and famous to make other people feel special. So I kind of think that's why they, got included on the manipulative list. And there are some connections, interestingly enough. Aren't there some connections between Mitt Romney's wife and some of the people in this group? Is kind of interesting, kind of shocking.
And I know that Charles was aware of it because he sent it out to a lot of people.
So Chad came up with all of this on his own?
That I know of. I don't know if he got it from anywhere else. I've never heard that.
He
before.
seemed to have modeled it after like a movie. And I don't remember now what the movie was. Maybe some Star Wars. I'll have to go back through my notes and see if I can find it. Harry Potter. Maybe it was Harry Potter. I have to go back and look and see. But it looked like Chad took a movie and then put the same structure and then called it, gave each step a different name and whatnot. But ultimately it came back to the movie.
And movie stars were on it.
I think so, or either he told us personally. I didn't look at the whole list, so I can't say. I just kind of browsed it a little bit because I didn't feel like it was for me to look at.
Yeah.
So I kind of skimmed it a little bit. So,
can you tell me about Chad and Lori sealing themselves in the temple to each other?
Oh, and Jason Mal was there.
And for those people that aren't familiar, couples will go to the temple and be married and sealed together, meaning they believe that their relationship will continue after this life ends. Did Chad and Lori talk about what they were doing in the temple together, which would be against church policy and procedure?
Right. Chad didn't tell me, but Lori did.
What did she tell you?
And she just told me they went together and they felt that they were sealed by those on the other side of the veil that had the authority to do that.
So they were in the temple together,
right,
when this happened.
Right.
Yet she's
That's
still
right.
married to Charles and he's still married to Tammy.
Correct.
And when you would raise this with them that, hey, you're still married, what was their reaction, or at least Lori's, because I'm sure you never had a chance to talk to Chad
Right.
about it.
She said that it was okay that they did this because they had been married so many times before that their spouses would understand someday.
Lori, from what I understand, said that she has been on 21 planets and Chad has been on 31. Have you heard that before?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say planets, but I would just say lives.
Lives.
Mm-hmm.
So she's had 21 lives
Mm-hmm.
and he's had 31.
Mm-hmm.
That he was a holy ghost and has had 5 lives on this earth and she's had 4 lives.
Correct.
And
well, no, I think she had 5 lives on this earth.
She had 5 lives on this. They both had 5 lives on this earth.
I believe so.
And Chad made a portal in Lori's closet so she can visit him. What does that mean? That sounds kind of crazy, I'll be honest.
It does sound crazy.
You believe
so
it,
a portal
Melanie?
is something that he created for her. I think, I don't know exactly how he did it, but maybe.
Like a box?
No, it's just
wait
a spot where he just maybe said a prayer. Or
you don't know how he did it? Did you really just say that, Melanie? You don't know how he did it? He didn't, Melanie. It's not real. You can't travel around the globe through a portal in Chad's closet. It sounds a little creepy and evil, but certainly not possible to metaphysically move from one place to another. And yet you almost, during this part, it's like she felt shame that she had believed something so silly. but she couldn't maneuver how to present it to Nate so that she didn't look like a fool. But she says, well, I don't know how he did it, as if she thought he actually did it. No, he didn't actually do it. There's nothing to do because it's not real.
However words he uses to create this portal. I
So
don't
he
know.
uses
I mean, I
words.
wasn't there. I don't know.
Sure.
But it's not like he could come through it physically, but it was a way for them to interact spiritually.
I see.
Yeah.
So it was a sacred area where if she wanted to connect with him, she could go sit and then.
Of all that was said during this interview, I found myself really, really wishing that Nate had asked Melanie Gibb if Chad had given her also a portal. I really wish he would have asked her. I think her answer would have been priceless.
And they would have a connection. What do you think about that?
I thought it was different. I thought, how do you do that? Like, do you have to have some special skills to do that? I didn't understand how people could do that, but I don't know. It was pretty extreme. But to me, everything was new, and I just thought, well, these people know things that I don't know about this stuff. So.
Oh my God.
It seems to me, though, that all along you were kind of at the back of your mind questioning, not blindly believing everything they said, but somewhat skeptical. Would that be an accurate?
Yeah. I mean, if you were to talk to Lori, she'd probably say I believed it.
Yeah.
But there's always a little bit of doubt because I know she also had doubt. And she, on occasion, 2 or 3 times said to me, if Chad is Satan, he sure is a good one. So that tends to lead me to think that she wasn't 100% convinced either.
That she may have doubted Chad too.
Yeah.
And she said, if Chad is a Satan, he sure is a good one.
Yeah.
Do you know, did she ever tell him that?
Not that I know of.
Or raise questions with him that
I don't know.
You don't know. You talked a little bit about Alex. What was he like with Zulema? Did you have much interaction with the two of them?
Just a little bit at the end, because they didn't know it. Well, they didn't get together until the very end, so they were just developing a friendship.
And you met Zulema at church.
Correct.
Okay. And what was Melanie Boudreau like?
She was.
She is a trip.
She's fun. I really love Melanie. We did have a special relationship. She loved me and I loved her. And so she seemed that she had a lot of strife going on in her life. And she was really worried about her family. And so we had conversations about what was going on to some level. I mean, I wasn't as involved with their conversations as Lori and Melanie were, but as far as I went, we just were a support of, to each other, I think.
Would it be fair to say that you, Chad, Lori, Melanie, Alex, Zulema, you 6 were kind of a close group of friends, kind of a tight-knit family in a way?
Yes.
So you all would spend a lot of time together, and during these.
Now, see, she readily admits this normalized language, that y'all were a family. She jumps right on that. Yes. Okay, so she's comfortable with the fact that Nate has normalized the relationship. But I want you to really stop and think about this. She's willing to embrace and own the relationship when it's presented as we were a family. That sounds safe, right? There's no shame. It's not embarrassing because they're not talking about zombies and such nonsense. But stop just a minute to actually process what that means. She's willing to say, yes, we were a family. She really likes that. She was enthusiastic. But at this point here, she knows that JJ and Tylee are dead. She knows what they've been up to. She's been around. when Lori was threatening to kill Audrey and others. She knows that Chad is cheating on his wife. Lori's cheating on her husband. Think about that. So when Nate presents it as a normal, oh, y'all were very close, you were a family. Yes. She doesn't have enough frame of mind, presence of mind to recognize she's now just acknowledged to Nate she was okay with all this. When you're laughing and you're going, ha ha, tell me about portals and zombies, blah, 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 ha 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 ha, that's so crazy. She's embarrassed. She doesn't want to admit that she's a part of it. So she tries to sort of laugh it off or align herself with Nate, but not in a convincing fashion. But when he normalizes it and says, oh, you guys were a family, she's like, yes. She thinks that's something I can own. It sounds so normal. But what is she really just acknowledged? She didn't have a problem with what they were doing. And do not forget this. She was sitting there in that kitchen when JJ went missing and ultimately lost his life. She was there when Alex took JJ to his apartment and then brought JJ back lifeless. She was there. She was there when Lori stole all of Charles's things out of the house, locked him out of the house, stole his truck, hid his truck, canceled his flight from Houston, took all of the payroll money out of the business bank account. Melanie Gibb was there when it was all happening. She was a part of it. She just admitted, yes, we were a family. Yes. Listen to how she accepts it so completely when he gives it, not in a joking, laughing way, but as a very normal way.
Tight-knit family in a way.
Yes.
So you all would spend a lot of time together, and during these meetups, over dinner or whatever, you talk about religious things, the mysteries of God, things like that.
Sometimes we didn't meet together as a group like a close friendship group together very often. We met on a very rare occasion together, all of us. We more like saw each other here and there, or talked on the phone, or took a drive here together. But that kind of, like you would a friend. You don't always get together as a group, but yeah.
And was it always religious talk?
Pretty much, I would say so.
Not a lot of other talk about politics or the weather.
Politics,
sports.
Probably not politics and sports. No, I wouldn't even talk about that.
Sure, yeah. Gardening, whatever.
I would talk about gardening.
So it was mainly.
So she turns her nose up at topics like politics, but she doesn't turn her nose up at discussions about zombies, portals, spiritual travel. I don't believe that Melanie has told what she knows.
Mainly religious talk when you'd all get together.
Yeah. September
of 2019, Lori moves to Rexburg.
Right.
Did you know she was going to move? Did she talk with you about this before?
Yep. Well, she didn't decide until, I think August, maybe.
And how did she break the news to you?
Well, she said that first she thought Chad would come to be with her in Arizona. And then she said, I think I changed my plans. I think I'm supposed to be up there. He says I'm supposed to be up there, but I need to get my own answer to find out if I'm supposed to be there, because she didn't really want to go there at first. And then she said, I was told, yes, I need to go, and she needed to be there by a certain time. And so she decided to go. And then she just told me that I need to go up there.
And at that time, you're seeing her every day with...
No, not every day at this point. It started to slow down when Charles passed away. I didn't see her as much. It started kind of tapering off in the end. And especially when she moved to Rexburg, it really tapered off because she was now... And then plus she had been to a few different places, Hawaii and Texas. And so, obviously I couldn't spend every day with her. So it started to taper down after she started moving more.
And before Charles passed, you're talking to her a lot. And is she telling you that she wants to get a divorce, or is she saying Charles is pushing this divorce on me?
She says that he wants to get it, but she does not want to. She doesn't want to go through another divorce again.
I want to get back to that in a minute. But in September, she moved. She tells you that she needs to go up there. And what was your reaction about Chad telling her she needs to come up there, knowing that Chad still has the wife and 5 kids?
Yeah, well, we talked about that. I'm like, isn't that going to be awkward? She was uncomfortable with it. She believed that Tammy was going to pass away, though, before she got up there. And that didn't happen. She didn't pass away before she got up there. And so I thought, I said, aren't you uncomfortable? Maybe she'll see you guys together. And so I thought it was different, that she was going to be up there when Tammy was still alive.
And she told you, well, Tammy will die before I move up there.
Right.
How was she going to die?
I heard a few times maybe through a car accident or something like that.
So they thought Tammy would be in a car crash.
Yeah.
Would pass away, then Lori would move up there, and then she could marry Chad.
Mm-hmm.
And when that didn't happen, she said, I've still got to go.
Yeah, because, the other side of the veil she's talking to, she said, I need to be there by this date. And
she's communicating with
someone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she moves up there, and from what I understand, she and Chad would walk around the track at BYU, Idaho, holding hands, maybe kissing, just displaying, looking like a married couple.
Well, she told me that they did walk around the track together. She didn't tell me what they did or didn't do, but I did have an opportunity to walk with them. And then we walked around and looked at the different pictures. I'd never been there before. So I saw the pictures that were in the gymnasium, behind it where they have these beautiful pictures. So we talked and we walked, and I was surprised. I'm like, aren't you worried that people are going to see you? And she says, well, Tammy doesn't come out a lot. She doesn't come over to this part a lot. So.
Now I want you to think about this part too. Melanie is a part of this group. She's there. She's basically sanctioned this illicit relationship between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. And she's talking about being, like being at the temple, looking at the pictures and how beautiful they are, right? Oh, I always go to church. I'm always there. I never miss church. So she's given this picture of herself as this pious, committed, religious, spiritual woman, right? I want to ask you this question. If she was this devoted to her spiritual life and her belief and relationship in God, if she was that devoted, would she be worried about Lori being seen by Tammy? Or would she really be concerned that these two highly religious people were doing the very worst? Why is she talking about, oh, well, I thought they were going to get caught and how terrible that would be? That's like a child's level of moral reasoning. It's like a little kid. Oh, well, I don't want to do that because I don't want to get caught and be in trouble. Versus, well, I don't want to do that because it's really bad for society. Other people might get harmed if I do that. She doesn't have that higher level of moral reasoning that characterizes adult thought. So not only does she betray in this moment, not only does she betray that she's not really committed to this whole religious thing. It's a pathway. It's a way to show herself to be special. Look how spiritual I am. Look how many times I go to church. Look at all the things I do related to church. See what a good person I am? It's not a real personal identity that feeds her soul, Because if it was, she would be saying to Lori, not, aren't you worried you're going to get caught and get in trouble? It would be, Lori, this is wrong. There are families involved that are being destroyed by this. That he has a lot of children. He's got a wife that you're interfering with a family of God. This is not appropriate. But instead, it's this very weak kind of childlike, ooh, aren't you scared you're going to get caught? Aren't you scared someone's going to see you? It's a very bad moment in this interview.
But they were openly affectionate.
Yeah, and they said a lot of people that knew Chad didn't know what Tammy looked like because they didn't do a lot of the things together.
Did Chad ever talk about Tammy possibly passing away?
I can't recall if he said it, but I know she did. He was very quiet most of the time. He let her do most of the talking.
How would you describe his personality at that time? Just reserved?
Reserved. Yeah, reserved. A little, sometimes he came across not very confident.
Did you stay with Lori at that time when you went up to visit her?
Mm-hmm.
And were the kids there?
JJ was.
But Tylee was not.
Tylee was not.
Where was she?
I was told she was at BYU.
Now, I felt like in this interview, hi, Jeff H. I saw you come in, wanted to say hello. Thank you for being here. This particular part of this interview, this is where I felt like things looked really bad for Melanie. I don't know if anybody else has had the same reaction. But when I watched this, I remember right here at this moment, I had this thought, why has she suddenly gotten nervous? She seems very, very, very uncomfortable to now be talking about Tylee. So I don't know if maybe she just didn't like Tylee or if she knew. Just watch. Her whole demeanor changes, in my opinion.
And were the kids there?
JJ was.
But Tylee was not.
Tylee was not.
Where was she?
I was told she was at BYU.
BYU in Provo?
Idaho.
BYU in Idaho. Would that have been a normal answer? Like a normal, okay, that makes sense type thing?
Well, I knew that Tylee had had her GED that she got when she was 16 or 17. I'm not sure exactly the age. And so it could have been plausible, but it didn't feel like it. There was definitely question marks. It was question marks for me. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel like the truth. I didn't know what to say about it. I wouldn't assume that she had done something to her. So it was kind of, I don't know. It was unusual.
But you didn't question her?
I didn't question it.
Was JJ with you on the walks?
No.
Where was he?
He was at home.
By himself?
His uncle was watching him.
Alex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So JJ's home with
right?
Alex, but there's no.
Strange that she calls Alex his uncle. Very odd. She's talked about Alex, that she likes him. She thought he was fun and interesting. Why now is he suddenly the uncle? It's distancing speech.
No sign of Tylee.
Correct.
And how long did you stay with Lori? That was it for a week?
So Thursday to a Monday morning.
I'm assuming Tylee never called her. She never called Tylee.
She didn't even talk about her.
Never spoke about Tylee.
Mm-hmm.
Did she speak at all about JJ?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he was all around us and we were talking about him quite a bit, actually.
What did she say?
As I arrived on the Thursday, she had said that he had turned into a zombie the day before I got there. And she was pointing out behaviors of his, like, look how he's doing this, that's unusual, or look how he's doing that. And she was trying to create uncertainty in me about what I saw his behavior. Like, what do you call that? Like a doubt. A doubt. And I was looking at him and I thought, well, I don't know, he kind of looks like JJ to me, hyper and angry one minute and kind of chill or crying the next minute. Like, that's how his behaviors always were around me. I don't know if they were always like that, but that's how I noticed him when I was around both of them. And she just gave me a few scenarios of different things he would say. That sounded a little unusual. I didn't hear him say it, but she would share things like he said this or he said that.
Had she talked about zombies before?
Mm-hmm.
And what did she tell you before, JJ? What did she teach you about zombies and belief in zombies?
So, so the first person, as we all know, is Charles, was considered one, and that was brought to Lori's attention by Chad on the phone call. I was in her house when that phone call came in, and he described to her that Charles was no longer Charles, that this unclean spirit that was friends with Charles on the earth, when they used to be friends, had now passed on, and now he is this unclean spirit on the earth roaming around, and now he's attached himself to Charles, and now he has entered his body and taken over it. So he's not really Charles anymore. He's now this guy named Ned Snyder. And so it was.
And then he dies. Correct? Funny comedian Alex kills Ned Snyder, aka Charles. She knows this. She knows how weird and crazy all their BS. She knows about the portals. She knows all this crap. Now she's sitting there with Lori, who's telling her that now the little boy is like Charles and Ned Snyder. And she doesn't believe that that the story about Tylee is true. So what does this woman do? Nothing. She's fine. It's perfectly okay. Nothing to see here. I shouldn't have known anything bad was about to happen. Does that make sense? Is that even remotely real? I don't know how she gets out of this with no charges. I really don't.
When she told me, and she seemed blown out by it. I could tell she was like, that is really different. And she told me, and I thought, that is very unusual. It was just, because Chad had this influence on people because he had visionary experience. He could see things.
No, he lied to you. He doesn't. There's nothing special about the Chad story. He's a
that when you think somebody can
fool.
See things or have visionary experiences about things, you tend to kind of believe them more than the average person.
No, you don't.
Because, if you ask me, I'd say I don't see anything. So you wouldn't take my point of view or my opinion. But if you had somebody that was really good at having visionary, because he often said that it was like.
You know what I think Nate Eaton is thinking right here? Look. Right here. Look at his eyes. Look at his face. You know what I think Nate Eaton is thinking right now in this second? I think he's looking at Melanie Gibb and he's thinking, I wonder what her IQ is. I really wonder how smart she is, or because I can't believe that these words are coming out of the mouth of a full-grown woman. This is a little scary.
Or my opinion. But if you had somebody that was really good at having visionary, because he often said that it was like the veil was open when he had his near-death experiences. So he often said that veil is open all the time. So he had this way of seeing things that Lori and I didn't have that we didn't have that gift of seeing. But I do have come to understand that gift has been manipulated by the adversary. And so.
By Satan.
Absolutely.
She told him all of this.
She did.
And you're saying Lori even felt uncomfortable with that information that Chad had told her?
In the first day, I'll say the first day that she was trying to absorb it, I knew it was new for her.
And Chad's the one that called Lori and
Absolutely.
said, an evil spirit has attached himself to Charles.
That's right.
Named Ned.
That's right.
Any idea where that name came from?
I don't know how he got his information other than she would say he would often sit in his portal and receive revelation about people.
So he's sitting in the portal most likely and received that.
Don't say it, Nate. Resist the urge, please. Please don't say that Chad is sitting in his portal receiving inspiration. Please don't, because every single rational adult is just having a mental image of the Chadster sitting on the porcelain throne.
He's telling Lori, Charles has this evil spirit. He's a zombie.
I'm not sure if they used that word in the beginning.
Okay.
They didn't use that word right away. They probably said that someone has taken over his body, named this Ned Snyder.
She tells him, he becomes worried, actually goes before a court and says she needs to have a mental, psychological evaluation.
To start with.
Did you go with her to that evaluation?
I did.
And what was that like?
They received her and she said, oh, she passed with flying colors, and she got out quickly, and I waited on the outside for her. And then Tylee is actually the one that picked us up from there.
And when you say passed with flying colors, do you know what they did?
Yeah, what
was
the
it
hell
just
does that mean?
An exam where she filled out a questionnaire, or she met with a doctor?
They went in the back room and they just talked to her about all kinds of stuff and asked her all kinds of questions. She didn't tell me in detail all the things I probably didn't want to know, but
you probably did.
Yeah,
want to
she
know,
seen
actually.
that she wasn't evaluated as mentally ill. So they said that she's like, oh, you're fine. We know that you're not mentally ill. I mean, that's what she told me that they said to her. So
do you think she was honest with them in
No.
her religious beliefs, or did she lie and give them the answers they wanted to hear?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know what they asked her. I mean, I should have asked her that, but I didn't.
So
Why
she
not,
gets out of
Melanie?
there.
Mm-hmm.
And is that when the whole incident with her purse happened?
Shortly after.
And tell me about that. She accused Charles of stealing her purse from the car, right?
Correct. Right. So she went to drop off JG at the school that he goes to. He was out of town. So his truck was moved from the airport. And so when he came back from his flight,
I want you to notice, notice how she starts describing this. Like she has to recall the story that Lori told her, right? Like, oh yeah, let me see if I can remember the way this went down. Lori told me all about it, correct? Well, here's what she's leaving out. She was there. She participated. Jason Mao was there. Is that the craziest thing? It's crazy. So I don't know why she's acting like, I got to see if I can remember what the story was. Melanie Gibb, your butt was a part of it. In fact, in order to move Charles's truck, it would have required two people. One person to drive Lori's car and one person to get out and drive Charles's truck. So what did you drive, Melanie? Inquiring minds want to know.
Tell me about that. She accused Charles of stealing her purse from the car, right?
Correct. Right. So she went to drop off JG at the school that he goes to. He was out of town. So his truck was moved from the airport. And so when he came back from his flight,
look at her laughing.
There was no truck.
Look at this crazy heifer laughing. This is, you see her licking her lips. She knows. She knows exactly what she did. And she is laughing that she took part in this horrible action. She is laughing, and the man is dead. Now, I ask you, does this seem like sweet Melanie who wouldn't hurt a fly? Or does she kind of seem like there's a high level of sociopathy there? Sorry, Melanie Gibb, I'm not giving you a pass. You're a fairly disturbing human being, in my opinion.
I don't know how he, got around or anything. Maybe he called a friend. I don't know what he did. And then I got to remember the details of this. I know she had JJ. She dropped him off at school. And then he came to the school, and then he opened her car door, took her purse, and then took off. And then she got in the car and she didn't see him. I don't believe she saw him. And then she's like, her purse is missing.
As all of these things are happening, there's a lot of
Look at
bizarre
Nate's face.
I know.
incidents. Did you ever think, what is going on here? How can there be this much
Yeah.
drama in one person?
It was a lot of drama. And I would ask them, like, why does these things keep happening to you? You know, because I have never been around so much drama in my life.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a chill person. And so it just seemed like there was one drama after another drama, and it never ended. And so I just thought, wow, this person, I used to say to her, why is everybody in your life turning into zombies? Like, why is everybody after you? Like, why? I don't understand. And she would say, well, it's because, you know, Satan really hates me, and I'm a, you know.
It was Melanie at this point, if this story that she's telling is true, was Melanie worried that she was going to be turned into a zombie? Why would she want to continue to be friends with Lori and Chad if all these people in their lives were turning to salt and zombified? Why would she, I ask you? Because it's all BS. Because what she's saying is just nonsense. She was all in. She was having fun. She enjoyed the power. You saw her smile when she talked about Charles getting off the airplane and his truck is gone and all of his belongings are gone. It wasn't funny. It was terrible what they did to that man. It was a nightmare. Yet here she is, after he's already been murdered, dead, gone. She's still chuckling and laughing about it. This, I tell you, this is not a sweet person.
Turning into zombies. Like, why is everybody after you? Like, why? I don't understand. And she would say, well, it's because, you know, Satan really hates me, and I'm a, you know, because of my exaltation on the level that I'm exalted to, they're coming straight after me.
So anyone that would disagree with her or cause her any sort of problem would become a zombie?
Pretty much. Or either considered to be dark. They're a little bit different, but that's another discussion.
Yeah. From what I
I don't know
understand,
what you're
Lori
laughing
knew
at,
how many
girl.
zombies were in every state.
Yeah.
And she could tell who was a zombie and who wasn't.
Well, not their name. Like, she couldn't know the whole world's name, so she would just have a number Chad would give her. Like, they would, I guess he would receive revelation on, okay, there's this many. So it was their commission, though, to get rid of all the zombies before, you know, tribulations came upon us. That was their goal.
And how would they get rid of the zombies?
Through some kind of prayer that they would do, which they believed was effective, because they'd go back and, you know.
No, wait a minute. I don't know what the hell you're laughing at, Melanie, because you're the one that stood around in the circle holding hands with these other women praying for people to die. Now suddenly you're elevating yourself above all the nonsense. Come on, lady.
So it was their commission, though, to get rid of all the zombies before, you know, tribulations came upon us. That was their goal.
And how would they get rid of the zombies?
Through some kind of prayer that they would do, which they believed was effective, because they'd go back and, you know, check in the portal to how many died, and the number would come up, oh, you know, 10,000 died or whatever. But there was no way of knowing it was real. Does that make sense?
Really?
I mean,
really,
you have
Melanie?
to say, does that make sense, Nate?
Are you sure, Melanie?
I know.
So let me get this straight. They're saying there's
God.
10,000 zombies in Idaho. Go into the portal, say the prayer, come out and say, oh, we got rid of 1,000 of them.
Something like that.
Oh,
Let's talk a little bit about Charles, and then we'll get back to September when you got to the house. Because from what I understand, Lori received a revelation that Charles was supposed to die in an accident on his way home from Texas.
Correct.
He didn't die. So what was her reaction at that point?
Well, I asked her, I'm like, why didn't he die? You were told he was supposed to die. Why didn't he die? And she said, well, I think she went to Chad and asked, because I don't think she knew the answer to that. And so he let her know that the accident that was supposed to happen didn't, because of people's choices. So when things didn't go according to plan or according to a timing, it was only because of agency, and it would change. Oh, it's because somebody changed their agency. Very inconsistent.
And the night before Charles died, didn't she call Alex and say, come and stay with me? Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
She did.
Yeah.
And then the next day, Alex shot Charles. What do you think happened there?
I didn't know about it till like 4 days after it happened.
Of
She called
course
me. She
you
said, "Hey, did you
didn't.
see the news?" I'm like, "I don't watch the news."
Of
Wait
course
a
And then
sec.
she
not.
told me,
Your best friend
You're far
did
too
not
busy
tell you for 4
gardening.
days that
Right.
her husband had been shot and killed.
correct. I found out through her, though. She did call me and let me know. And she said, "Have you not heard and watched the news?" I said, "I don't watch the news." And she said, "Charles was shot." And I'm like, "What?" And so tell me what happened. And anyway, so I got to
Little
visit with her for a
gossiper.
while, and she gave me, I think she gave me the rendition that she gave the police.
You
know,
think?
it sounded, what I've heard, it sounds like the same thing as, he came over. And the question that I had, that part of me was like, well, why is he coming to get you and kill you? Like, I don't understand why Charles wants to kill you.
She told you Charles showed up to kill her.
That was his way. He was coming down from Texas.
To kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why she had called Alex the night before to come over to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And that he shot Charles in self-defense.
Correct.
You knew, though, that she had told you months earlier that Charles was possessed of a zombie.
Correct.
So did you think, well, there's more here?
Right, because if he's coming down, that's why I'm like, well, what, like as a person that would perceive, the public wouldn't perceive him as a zombie, right? Like, what kind of reason could he give anybody for coming down to kill her? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so she just said, well, they're after me. And I said, well, why? She said, well, for insurance. Like, I have $3 million of insurance on my head. And I'm like, really?
She said she had $3 million of insurance on her head.
Mm-hmm.
Did she ever talk to you about Charles's insurance?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What did she say?
She said that he had, I think, about $1 million, and that she knew when he passed away that she thought she'd get the money.
So she talked about how when Charles dies, I'm going to get $1 million.
I don't know if she was 100% sure, because she thought maybe possibly it could have been switched from her to Kay. So she wasn't sure if she was really going to get it or not.
But it was...
Okay, so imagine, people. Imagine your friend saying all of this crazy portals, zombies, all of that. And then this friend who is clearly unbalanced now begins talking about how her husband's going to die. And when her husband died, because it's God's will, that then she's going to go and marry someone else's husband because it's God's will. And that when her husband dies, because God wants him dead, she's going to inherit $3 million or $1 million or whatever it was. At what point do your red flags, warning bells, at what point do you stop and go, this is not okay? This person is in crisis. My friend is not normal. How far would this woman be willing to go? And that actually is the operative question, isn't it? Not how far would she go. I want to know, how far did she go? Because in a very strange twist of events, she actually drove up to Rexburg and put herself in the apartment with Lori and was there when JJ was killed and buried in Chad's yard. So how far did she go?
It's something she was thinking about and talking about.
Yeah, she did know about it.
And then when she found out it had been switched to Kay, what was that conversation like?
Well, she wasn't overjoyed about it. And she's like, well, Kay has the money now. But she also believed that Kay was a zombie as well. So she just believed that they were all against her. That was her belief system. As time passed, she's like, I'll get something from, when a spouse dies, you get Medicare, I think. Something like that.
Some sort of benefit.
Yeah, and he was a bit older than her. So
she
knew that she could get something still. so that she wasn't completely left without anything.
And she brought that up, that she would get money.
Yeah, because I was like, what are you going to do? How are you going to take, the typical things that you talk about when people pass away, like how are you going to provide for yourself?
We heard that she was also getting money as a single mom, money from Tylee and JJ because JJ had disabilities.
So I know Tylee received money from her father's death. And yeah, I think so. I think JJ did too. I don't remember talking about that too often.
We figured it out, and it was around $6,000 a month, tax-free, that she got between the three.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that much money from the government?
Something sounds familiar.
What was your thought when you heard all of this talk about zombies?
I did question it. I mean, all of us did. I mean, I sat and talked to Alex about that a few weeks before he passed away. I'm like, I'm not too sure about this zombie thing. And he goes, I 100% believe it.
He said he 100% believed it.
Yes. So Alex really did believe.
Do you think that when he shot Charles, that was in his mind, that Charles is a zombie and I must get rid of him?
Yeah, because he really felt to protect his sister. That was his duty.
To protect his sister.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time you get up to Rexburg in September, this zombie talk has become normal, or at least you've heard it before.
Correct.
And so let's pick up where we were a minute ago with JJ. She tells you right when you get there, JJ's a zombie?
Correct.
And starts to point out things that she believed had zombified him.
Right.
And you're thinking as an outsider, what?
I'm looking at him and trying to discern. And it looks normal to me. I couldn't tell. So I was like, there was a lot of doubt there, obviously.
Did she say that she's looking at Alex and she thinks he looks normal to me? Is that what she said? That is definitely a case of the pot calling the kettle black, isn't it? Whew. This was definitely the blind leading the blind.
It's hard to believe that completely. I don't ever even believe that Lori completely ever believed it.
You don't?
I think she, like when you want to believe something sometimes and you listen to people tell you, like maybe she was listening to Chad, or maybe because of why it was happening, sometimes you really want to believe stuff.
Like Santa Claus.
The outcome is much what you're desiring to have. And so, yeah, I don't know if I think she believed it to a certain level. I'll just say that. But I don't know.
Santa
I'm not
Claus.
Confident that she 100% believed it.
Yeah.
It sounds to me that Chad was kind of calling the shots.
She would say, he's so much better at getting revelation than me. So I used to get a lot, but I rely upon him a lot more now. So she trusted his because she was not considered a visionary, right? So he would tell her, these people, whoever was around her, these people are doing this, they're doing that, they're dark or they're zombie or whatever. He was the one she would call and ask those questions. She said she wasn't very good at getting the answers.
Do you think Chad told her that JJ had become a zombie?
I think so. Yeah.
So she tells you all these things. You're kind of like, he looks normal to me, looks like normal JJ.
Yeah.
Did it worry you at all that, oh no, look what happened when Charles became a zombie? Something might happen to him?
Good point, Jeff.
I didn't think she would do that because that's her boy. We had actually a talking about this. She goes, well, I need to, it's time for JJ to, I don't know how she worded it, but it was something to the effect, it's time for, he's in the way of our mission. So we need to send him to Kay's house. That was kind of like the idea is what can we do? And so we talked about Kay and we talked about some of her family members that could actually take him on. And so we talked about, what that conversation would be like with Kay. And she wasn't sure if Kay would really receive him. And so we talked about just different ideas about, him going there. And so that was the plan that I knew of, is he's going to Kay's house. She told me that. I know that from what I saw in one of the video clippings, that she also told a neighbor that as well. And so that's what I believe was going to happen to him. So I left thinking that that's where he was going, as Kay's, for sure. I didn't doubt that.
So as her friend, you're saying, okay, he's a zombie. he's in the way of your mission. She
Right.
said that. So you guys came up with a plan of,
Mhm.
why don't we let Kay take care of him, or someone in Kay's family?
Yeah.
Had you dealt with Kay before?
I met her briefly, but I didn't interact with her.
Okay.
It was like, hi, how are you? I'm Melanie. And that was about it.
So even though Lori had an issue with Kay, she was willing that day at least to say, yeah, we'll send JJ to Kay.
Correct.
You leave Rexburg
That's right.
thinking JJ's going to go to Kay's house.
That's right.
You never saw Tylee the whole weekend
Correct.
because she was at college, allegedly. What happens from there?
This is where there's a big turn in my life. This is when
Now, of all the things that she says, to me, this just made my jaw drop. I was just flabbergasted. And the thing that I find to be so shocking about this is she literally says, this is where, my life changed. There's like this huge explosion in my life. I couldn't believe my ears. We know Charles is murdered. Joe Ryan, very likely murdered. Tammy Daybell, murdered. JJ, Tylee, kids, they're murdered. Colby has lost his entire family, wiped out overnight. The depth and breadth of the total destruction that Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow did to others is so incredible. You almost cannot wrap your mind around it. And here is this little, I don't even know what to call her, bonehead, who's literally saying, my life was shattered. This is where your life was shattered? No, Melanie. This is where you got sucked into the story of murder of 2 kids, and you failed to return a phone call to the police to tell them, I don't have the kids. I don't care what she said. I don't have them. I haven't had them. You need to go find them somewhere else. So don't talk about that you're the victim. It's unbelievable. It's so unbelievable.
hits the fan. This is the part that I hate talking about.
Yeah.
This was hard for me. I'm sure I talked to her a few times on the phone. She did express that he went to Kay's house. Okay. So I don't know when she told me, but I would say within a short period of time after I left.
She called and said he's at Kay's.
Right. And she said, oh, yeah, we met up in the airport and she received him and he's going to go stay. I mean, she gave me the whole story. I believed it. And it's about Thanksgiving and everything changed. I thought he was safe. And I get a call from Chad 2 days before Thanksgiving. I still feel emotional about it. He said, Melanie.
Yeah, you should. There were babies dead.
When the police call, don't pick up the phone. And my heart just dropped. I was so confused. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, the police are over at Lori's house checking on JJ. And I'm like, JJ's not with Kay? No. My heart dropped deeper. And I just knew something was wrong, but I didn't know. I didn't understand.
Well rehearsed story delivery. You see that look on her face right there? That's saying, do you believe me? Are you paying attention? I didn't know anything. Listen to how well rehearsed the story is.
House checking on JJ. And I'm like, JJ's not with Kay? No. My heart dropped deeper. And I just knew something was wrong, but I didn't know. I didn't understand. Like, when you believe your friends are good people, I couldn't believe that they could do something like that.
Wait, she said JJ was a zombie, like Charles and Ned Schneider. What do you mean? You thought they were good people? You guys were praying for people to die. In what world did you think you got? Oh, I remember you were one of the 144,000. Oh, yeah.
That
What was Chad's demeanor like on the phone? Was he stoic? What was he like?
he was very nervous.
He was nervous.
He was very scared. He did not sound himself. Very unsure, very quivery almost. Yeah, it was a hard moment.
So that call comes completely out of the blue.
Out of the blue. Wasn't expecting that at all.
He says, don't pick up the phone when the police call.
Mhm.
He's scared. He's nervous.
Hmm.
He says they're going to call you because they're at Lori's house.
And she's going to tell them that JJ's with you.
She's going to tell the cops that JJ's with you in Arizona.
No, I was in Utah at the time.
You were in Utah.
Yeah.
First of all, that's a bombshell that's just thrown.
It's I can't even describe how I felt. They put me in a very awkward situation.
Were you able to even question him, or was your mind just?
I was questioning in my mind, but verbally, there was nothing coming out really. I did say, why? She said, well, Kay is trying to kidnap him. And I said, how do you know that? Well, through emails. You know the emails. I said, I have not read your emails. What do they say? She said, Kay had mentioned, it's not like I'm going to kidnap JJ or anything. And I did think to myself, that doesn't sound like a threat.
How soon after did Lori then call?
I can't recall, but it was soon after.
Soon after. And what does she say?
She sounded like everything was wonderful and great. She had an upbeat voice, and I was like, wow, she's positive. And that maybe it gave me a little hope that, hey, maybe, it's not what I'm thinking the worst.
What did she say?
She said, hey, everything's fine. Everything's okay. And I mean, I can't quote exactly all the things I said. So she led me to believe that everything was fine, and that, that JJ was, I'm trying to remember how she worded it, that she was protecting JJ, something to the fact that he, they were not just Kay, but it felt like many people were after him. And so she was trying to protect him. That's what she told me. But I've talked to the police before. I was like, when you get a gut feeling, that's real, right? And they're like, yeah, you got to go on gut instinct.
And what was your gut feeling?
If something was terribly wrong. I mean, it just stayed in there for a long time, that gut feeling. It did not feel comfortable. Something was telling me something's off here.
See, this is so disingenuous, right? So now the baby is gone. Tylee's been gone. Now JJ's gone. Cops are calling. The Chadster, suddenly his portal is defective. Otherwise, he could just get in the portal and tell where JJ is, right? Now she's having this internal dialogue, her gut. Now she's having this internal dialogue. Oh, maybe something's wrong. Oh, maybe I could be wrong. Let me ask for guidance from the police. Should I listen to my gut feeling? This is such BS. Her gut feeling should have been screaming at her the minute that Charles Vallow died at the hands of Alex. That is the first step for the gut feeling to start singing. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, please tell me, Mr. Policeman, should I listen to that little voice inside of me that's saying, this is weird that JJ is not with Kay? No. It's perfectly normal for a child to go stay with their grandmother. That is not unusual. What is unusual is for a man to call himself a prophet and to tell people that he's got a portal that he placed in his closet that allows him to take metaphysical flight about the globe and throughout all of time. And that in fact, he didn't just meet Lori, he has been married to her 5 different periods of time. Okay, so Melanie, let me get this right. your gut feeling doesn't go off when you're finding out about the portal and zombies and one dead husband, especially after your little friend kept telling you how much life insurance policy he had and how she was going to get money from him dying and how much money she was going to get from the government when he died. You didn't have any gut feelings then, but suddenly, magically, you got a gut feeling when JJ is supposedly visiting his grandma Kay. Is that right, Melanie? Because I kind of think that sounds like BS, if you know what I mean. If that makes any sense, Melanie. Early in the Book of Mormon, in 1 Nephi 4, God apparently tells Nephi to behead Laban. I believe it's this kind of thing that empowers a whack job like Chad to justify murder. I believe that is exactly the kind of thing that empowers a whack job to justify murder. I believe you are exactly right, Jeff. And I also will say this, and I feel fairly confident in what I'm about to say. There's a lot of wacky jobs coming out of Gilbert, Arizona, and that temple that is there. You know what I mean? Do you guys remember the video I did a couple of weeks ago with Preston Lord, the young man who was literally beaten to death by 5 wealthy little jerks who call themselves, they are now a street gang. They call themselves the Gilbert Goons. I affectionately call them the Goonies. They literally beat Preston Lord. They didn't know him. No, they didn't know Preston. He was just the one that happened to be there when Millionaire's kid, Renner, is getting initiated into the Goonies. He wants to steal this gold chain that Preston Lord has, and they all jump in together, beat the kid, drive away, leave him dead in the road. And all these special millionaire parents, they took steps to hide their children. They took steps to obfuscate that the fact that their child was involved in the murder of Preston Lord. This came out of Gilbert, the temple. These are Mormon kids. So I don't know what's going on at the temple in Gilbert, but there seems to be some very curious lessons about Nephi and Laban, among other potential things. Yes, Jeff, I think you hit the nail on the head. Anyone can take a story, a biblical story out of the Bible or the Book of Mormon, and turn it into a very suggestive tool if they need an excuse for their bad behavior. This girl, this chick, she has gotten on my last nerve.
Wanted to believe her. I didn't want to think that she would do anything like that.
You didn't.
I really, really wanted to believe her.
I know you
What
did.
did she ask you to do?
She asked me to tell the police that JJ was with me, and that when I went, because I was going to go and drive down to Arizona for Thanksgiving, and that he was going to go with me, which I didn't know any of this, right? It's all new to me.
Sure you did.
That she had made it sound like we had arranged it or something. But anyway, he was going to go down to Arizona with me, and she was going to come down there later and pick him up. So that was a foreign idea to me. I'd never heard of that before. So it was very, I can't even tell you how uncomfortable, after I get to Arizona and everything. I was talking to Alex because I wanted to meet with him. And he goes, I cannot believe she threw you under the bus like that.
So Alex came to your defense.
And I said, I can't believe she did either. I said, I can't believe she said that. I don't, that was not smart.
Tell me about what she asked you to do at the movie theater.
So she said, I've told the police that you were at Frozen 2 with JJ, and to get your cell phone out and just take a picture of random kids running around to make it look like you had them with you. And I was thinking to myself, nah, I don't make stuff up like that. I don't
Really?
do that. So I'm just in shock still. I really was in a shock type of.
Sure you were, Melanie.
It's just, everybody's listening. Everybody has different opinions, what they're going to think about all this, right? But in that moment, I really did not know what to say.
And you weren't in the right frame of mind to question her.
Right. I wasn't.
And so you hang up that call. Did she say anything else other than go to the movie theater, take pictures of random kids, and talk about the Arizona plan?
I know that at one point we talked about her going on a trip with Chad's children to California. She might have mentioned it during that time, or I called her short.
Now imagine this. Lori is talking to Melanie about taking a trip to Disney World with Chad Daybell's adult children. And at the time that this conversation is happening, her two babies are dead in the ground.
Shortly after that, when I was driving down to Arizona, it was between that conversation and that, I can't recall, but that they were going to go on a family vacation and that they were just going with the kids, his kids.
How quickly did the police call?
Within half an hour to an hour. After thinking and pondering and talking to a really good friend, I'm like, there's something off. And I admitted, I said, I'm very, very concerned about this zombie idea. I really don't believe it. And my friend said, I don't think it's true either.
Her friend is David Warwick. That's who she's referring to when she says her friend. Now, I don't quite know why at this point, I don't know about the time frame, but David Warwick was very high up in the Mormon church. He had a family with about, I don't know, maybe 5-7 kids. I don't know if they got together before he walked out on his family. I don't know what that time frame is. So maybe at this point, maybe she was still trying to keep the relationship secret, perhaps. But that doesn't make sense to me, because I thought that during the preliminary trial, they came out and I think she was going to Utah and actually staying with him at his house in Utah. So I don't really know what that is, but for whatever reason, as she tells it here, she's just saying, I talked to my friend. But during the preliminary hearing, she names him, that's who she's talking about. She stayed up all night talking to David Warwick. She spilled her guts, told him everything she knew, she claims. And, he encouraged her, said, this isn't right. This doesn't sound right. You're going to have to reach out to the police. So it's pretty self-serving, but maybe it's true. I mean, I don't know.
We talked till 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we talked about everything, the belief structure and all these different things. We talked about all kinds of things about these doctrines. We talked about many things and how they did not fit the pattern that the scriptures teach. I often think about when Jesus Christ was on the earth. He healed people. He cast out evil spirits. He did not kill people.
See, I can't deal this where she gets on her religious high horse and she begins to preach and testify to the listener after what she's done, what she's been a part of, what she's allowed to unfold while she's there. She made no mention to try to inject a little bit of sanity. She made no mention to either Chad or Lori, either one, that this lifestyle that they had chosen, that Chad was betraying an entire family. Lori was betraying an entire family, that what they were doing was actually sacrilegious. She didn't do any of that. It's only once the police are involved in breathing down her neck, now suddenly she holds her hands up in the air and yells, praise Jesus. This is bad. This is, I'm worried about Melanie's mortal soul, the way she's talking here. This is not okay.
And if they did have an unclean spirit, he was able to get rid of it. I did want to share to many people listening is that there are many people other than Chad that believe these teachings of many lives or multiple
Jason, now, do you believe these teachings?
Within our own church or either close groups that are affiliated. And I want you to decide, as people that believe this, does having this information make you a better person?
See,
does it make you loyal to your spouse?
She's
like that call,
playing a game. She knows that she's in hot water, and she's now trying to present as a rational, spiritual person. She wants the police, the church, to judge her as this mask that she's created of being such a pious and Christian person. She's now trying to say, no. Don't pay attention to the things that you're about to find out about me. Only listen to the words that I say. And then she goes into a sermon. And I'm just not going to play that here. I don't have the patience to listen to that nonsense.
From Lori and Chad and the police, that was kind of your awakening.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
After that long talk with your friend till 5 a.m, when you went through everything Chad had taught you,
right,
and all of that you said, this is wrong, and you call the police, and is that when you told them everything you knew?
Oh yeah, I told them everything, just like I'm talking to you. I just let it out. And the interesting thing is that everything I share with them is documented, right? Was before anything came out on the news. So people can say, well, Melanie learned this from other things, maybe. Oh no, Melanie didn't.
This was back in
Now, here's an interesting idea, talking about presence of mind, right? Why is she establishing, don't look at me, don't try to pin anything on me, I didn't do it. You see how my story matches all the evidence. So I'm telling the truth. I wasn't involved in these murders. I wasn't a part of these murders in the way that every single one of my friends was. Is that the way that an innocent person acts? If you find out about JJ and Tylee, Charles, Tammy, isn't there grief? Aren't you horrified at what happened to these two kids? Not good old Melanie. Good old Melanie is smug. Duper's, look at that Duper's delight. Look at it all over her face. Don't you guys even get up to any funny business trying to say that I had anything to do with this, because my story is going to match exactly all the evidence and nanny boo boo on all of you guys. Y'all can't pin anything on me. This part right here, this is one of the worst indictments. She reveals herself. You've heard that old adage, give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves. Exhibit A right here. She reveals herself right here in this moment. These are not the thoughts nor the actions or behavior of an innocent person. If you believe that people are going to think that you had something to do with the murder of two kids, you are going to be mortified. terrified, not smug, feeling like you're so much smarter than anybody else. Look at the look on that woman's face.
This is back in December, the early part of December, before the first release, the press release, because we talked about the dates to make sure,
Sure.
I was, and I was accurate, and I knew that I was, but I just wanted to make sure. And I said, look, this is stuff I know. So when I go to the police and share all these things about multiple probations, they were married before, people or zombies and things like that, they were not surprised when they were looking at me. They were like,
the police weren't.
And I was like this, like, it was hard to say it. I couldn't even say the word zombie when I first talked to them. It was just too painful to say it, because I'm like, oh, this is so jacked up. And yet they go, we've heard stuff like this.
It's so jacked up. And you were a willing participant, Melanie. You're right. It is jacked up. You stole Charles Vallow's truck from the airport. You were a part of that. You were there when Lori Vallow was packing his things up. You knew that Lori was lying at the police department, and yet you were right there helping her little story along. You were there the night that JJ died. What do you mean? Oh, I couldn't say it. It was so jacked up.
This, Phil, it's okay. We've heard all kinds of stuff coming, We've been police for a long time. We've heard a lot.
And so you knew at that point that this was foolish, and you were embarrassed.
Yeah, absolutely. I said, I'm gullible.
And the reason that you want to make it clear that it's not like you picked all this up over the past few weeks. You knew this and said this back in December.
Oh, yeah.
Before any of this came out.
Absolutely. And I was on her team, right? Not on the opposition's team.
Team
so
Lori.
I wasn't, you know what I mean? If we were going to call them teams, I wasn't affiliated with Charles.
So she was on Team Lori. So now we got teams, guys. How's that work exactly? You got dead people everywhere. You got people dropping like flies all around Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. And Melanie here is on Team Zombie. She's admitted it. Those were her people. She's about to go on and tell you, I wasn't a part of Charles Vallow's team. I was on the Prophet's team. I was on Lori the Oh-Ho's team. That Jezebel. But I wasn't on Charles' team. I wasn't on JJ and Tylee's team. I certainly wasn't on Tammy's team. Does that strike anybody as absolutely bonkers? There are dead kids, and you're talking about this like it's the damn NFL. What do you think that says for the way that this woman looks in terms of innocence or guilt? You were on a team? Like as in sister wives? Like the Chadster and all of his women disciples? Is that what caused you, Melanie, to feel like you were on a team?
Charles or anybody he was affiliated with. I was only affiliated with this small group of friends. And when I shared everything I did, it was the same things you could read on those court documents that Charles presented, which I didn't know all that stuff was on there, because they started exposing that on the news. So the stories, for all those that do believe in Chad and love him, and I love him too.
What?
And I know his family loves him.
What? What the hell? What do you mean you love him? There are dead children. What are you babbling about?
But I knew about these things before the news released it, and it is documented. So I am only here to share the truth because of those that passed away
Oh, okay.
and that justice needs to be served.
Oh, so now she's on JJ and Tylee's team. Now she's on Team Tammy and Team Charles. Now that the police have come knocking. I'm baffled by this.
My hope is that they will look into their hearts and start to repent of the things and confess the things they did.
Chad and
My hope, Melanie, is that when they finish prosecuting Chad, that now that they're all down in Arizona, they'll give a much closer look of you and your associates. That's my hope.
Lori.
Chad and Lori. But it's hard to do that when if you're Lori, think about this, and my heart breaks for her. She's got to admit that these people are dead and it was because of their teachings and their ideas that they had these things happen. It's hard to admit that. You would have to admit that you actually had something to do with the death of your family.
What do you mean? No, they killed them. Not that, well, they had a little something to do with it. They told stories and gosh, that, golly, was really terrible. No, Melanie, she murdered JJ. Nobody really understands what happened to Tylee, but they do know that Lori and Alex, they were with Tylee that day that she was killed. So I don't know. This is eerie. The way she's preaching, it sounds like something you would hear in church, but it lacks any level of rational logic at all. Maybe it is desperation. Maybe she's terrified because she knows just how much she was in it.
You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
And
so
her
it's hard.
children.
It would be hard to say my belief systems are false because then she would have to say, yeah, this happened. I do feel sorrow for everybody involved, both sides, because everybody's hurting from this. She's in the jail now.
What are the sides? She just said that she feels sorry for both sides. Both sides. Can someone illuminate this for me? What are the two sides? I don't know. I don't know what the sides are, right? Does anybody know what the two sides are? I guess there's the side of the children, the living children and the living spouses. There's that side. But what's the other side? The murderers, right? So what is she even saying? It is. Oh, I know, Jeff. It's so demeaning to human life. It's so, I don't know. Crack is whack. That's all I can say. This girl is a trip.
This happened. I do feel sorrow for everybody involved, both sides, because everybody's hurting from this. She's in the jail now. She doesn't get to be with Chad, who she loves. That's what she wanted so badly. And now she can't even be with him. It was a fatal attraction that led to their separation and people passing away. It's a tragic story.
One of the people we haven't talked about is Tammy. How did you learn that Tammy had died?
Someone texted me, a friend, not any, person that was associated close, but just a friend. She said, "Hey, just want to let you know she passed on." And then I said, "How did you find out?" She said, "Facebook."
What did you think when you saw that she had died?
I thought, oh my gosh, she died. That's what they said was going to happen. I wonder what happened.
So did you think it was part of the plan?
They said was going to happen. I wonder what happened.
Saw that she had died.
I thought, oh my gosh, she died. That's what they said was going to happen. I wonder what happened.
Look at that face. does she look like she's enjoying this? Like your friend calling you and saying, "Hey, you're never going to believe what happened to old Sally Ray, our buddy, our friend. Guess what happened to Sally Ray?" I don't know. What happened to Sally Ray? She won the lottery. Sally won $1.2 billion. See it look on her face? That would fit, wouldn't it? Oh my God. That is so awesome. Right? Not for Melanie. No. Somebody can call and say, "Hey, you know Chad Daybell? Yeah, that author? His wife died." Oh, really? Exactly what is it you are like acting out? This feigned surprise that you got going on there, Melanie? What exactly are you acting out? Because you've already lived through, they killed Charles, and you knew about that. And you kind of knew that they killed Tylee, your very own words. You said that Lori looked at you and said it in a way that made your blood run cold. So you knew that she could kill Tylee. You also, in a very strange twist of fate, happened to be there the night little JJ was killed. Oops. Now you're acting like this woman that you never met, you didn't know, Tammy Daybell. You're acting like when she died, that's just the craziest thing you ever heard of. Melanie, what is wrong with you? And more important, what the hell is wrong with these police officers and detectives? Why in the world wasn't this woman arrested and had charges brought against her?
Happened.
So did you think it was part of the plan?
I didn't know how they did it, but I knew it was part of the plan that she was supposed to pass away. I mean, other people knew she was supposed to pass away because, Chad knew this information for, quite a while.
So she passes away in October. What did you think when you found out Chad and Lori quickly fled to Hawaii? Didn't you find out because she sent you their wedding photos on your email?
I knew that they were going to be married like as soon as she passed away. I mean, I knew that.
And you're kind of questioning it as to, this is odd. She's here.
It is odd. It's all odd. The whole thing is odd.
When she did die, though, and they went to Hawaii and got married so quickly, did you question that, or was that just part of the plan?
Well, that was part of their plan. Their whole goal was to get together because,
notice now she's begun distancing herself, right? That was part of their plan. It was all their plan. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, old Melanie, sweet Melanie, and the rest of Chad's ladies were standing around in the living room holding hands, praying for people to die. And Zulema is hanging out, conjuring up earthquakes. Now it was their plan. Why, I'm sure I know nothing of any plans of death and doom and despair. Jesus, this woman is incorrigible.
They expressed to me many times that Tammy would be okay with this as she passed on. She may not remember it now, but as she passed on, she had a mission to fulfill on that side. And so he felt that was, they both felt that was where she was supposed to go. She was move on and fulfill her mission. So it didn't seem unusual to either one of them that, she passed on, because that was the plan, is that they were going to be together.
After she dies, after they get married, you get that call, don't answer the phone. They call you or communicate at all with you during that week?
I called once on my way to Arizona, and I was concerned for the safety because that's what they led me to believe. So I wanted to have a prayer. I was like, let's just say a prayer, pull over on the side of the road, let's say a prayer. And Chad was very nervous and didn't seem much settled.
Pull over to the side of the road. Let's say it's a little prayer that everybody has safe travels for Team Chadster. you didn't like have prayers for safe travels for Charles Vallow. You didn't have any prayers for safe travels for Tammy, and you knew they were going to kill Tammy. It doesn't sound like you had any kind of safe travels prayers for JJ and Ty Lee. I do not understand. I swear, Melanie Gibb and Nicole Kessinger, well, they should move in together and become besties because they're a part of some kind of club that, I don't know, they seem to be invisible to detectives.
At all. And she seemed fine.
So you were still on their side,
Yeah. Yeah.
but Chad was nervous.
Yes, he was.
Lori was acting like it was a normal day.
Yeah.
So you spoke the one time over the course of that week.
No, I spoke to her when I decided that there's something going on. That's awfully wrong. And so a friend of mine called both of them.
That
So
would
I
be
called
David Warwick.
Chad.
David Warwick called, and here's sort of how I envision that conversation happened. Melanie, they're going to arrest you. Well, I know, but I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what I can do. Well, we need a plan, Melanie. You have got to have a plan. You've got to come up with an explanation that the cops can accept. And then you're going to have to be willing to give all the information you have to the cops. And that means that now you're not going to be on Team Chadster anymore. Now you're going to be on Team JJ, Ty Lee, Charles, and Tammy. You have to change teams, Melanie. Can you do that? You got that in you? Yeah, David, I think I do. But what am I going to say? And I believe that they sat down together and they wrote out a script. You know, we've heard about scripts before, right? Here on YouTube. I think they wrote out a script and she memorized it. And then they made a plan for the phone call because what they were trying to do is they were trying to catch Lori and Chad kind of acknowledging that obviously Melanie doesn't know anything about what they have done. The phone call didn't exactly turn out that way, but I think it must have been enough for the cops to say, well, I mean, she must not have been involved. She's the one that gave us the phone call recording. And that's kind of how I think it went down.
Chad's phone, and I knew she would answer because I didn't think any of her phones were working anymore. And so I just said, I have no testimony that you've shared the things, your own personal experiences that are sacred. I have no testimony of that. It doesn't fit the pattern that I see. That's, the pattern of things I've seen within our own church. And I had a hard time speaking, honestly. It was a very hard conversation for me. I said very little. And I said, could you just please tell us where the kids are, if they're safe? Why didn't, no, I said, I think the first question is why haven't you told us where the kids are? Well, for your safety, we cannot tell you. And that just was alarm for me because I was like, well, what safety? Why am I in danger? I didn't feel like I was in danger. They wouldn't answer us, of course. And I shared, I really didn't have a testimony of the things. I never got that confirmation that what the things they shared with me are true or not. So that we hung up with that conversation. I went to talk to the police after that. And once I talked to them, I basically had a long conversation with both, kind of a long conversation with both of them about a lot of personal feelings about, I'm concerned for you. I'm concerned for your salvation, the things that you've done. I said, this is not light, this is darkness. And I asked again, like, why did you tell the police I had the kids? And she said, well, I told them because of, safety of JJ and these different answers. And so she did, share that she lied about it. And I asked a little bit about a few other things. Can't recall everything. It was kind of a long conversation, and I was very uncomfortable talking to her. It was a disturbing conversation.
Is that when you said that they were evil?
Yeah.
And how did they react to that?
They didn't like that very much. I just continued to tell her that I was concerned for them. And I am, and I was.
Was this call more out of pleading of, listen, I'm concerned for you. Just say where the kids are. Basically, I don't want to say calling them to repentance, but in a way saying, you've gone astray.
Yeah.
Was
It,
that
it was many feelings. That was some of them. Yeah.
everything just came out?
Just a lot of things.
And that's the last time you spoke to them?
Yes.
And then Alex died.
Yes, that was definitely a mystery for me.
How did you find out he had passed?
He was living with his wife, his new wife, right? And we all were in the same ward. And so the bishop called and said, why is there cop cars around her Suleiman's house? And I said, well, that was an interesting conversation. And we chatted for a bit, and I explained just a little bit. And then he calls me back and says, he died. I'm like, what? That was that completely threw me. I was like, that, I had no concept of how that happened. None.
Okay, so basically she's just admitted she wasn't exactly surprised when Charles died. She wasn't really surprised when Tylee and JJ came up dead. And she certainly was not surprised, was even expecting that Tammy Daybell would die. None of those really caught her off guard. But man, when Alex died, now that was a shock. She just said it right in front of us. Doesn't even realize what she said. She just admitted to knowing about the other deaths.
Yes.
And then Alex died.
Watch it.
Yes, that was definitely a mystery for me.
Definitely.
How did you find out he had passed?
He was living with his wife, his new wife.
Unbelievable.
Right? And we all were in the same ward. And so the bishop called and said, why is there cop cars around her Suleiman's house? And I said, well, that was an interesting conversation. And we chatted for a bit. And
so somehow, I think she must have associated Zulema with JJ missing. I mean, that's why the cops called her, right? Because of JJ? So is that what she explained to the bishop? That the cop cars must have been around Zulema's house because they were all looking for JJ? That's very curious, isn't it? And then when he says, no, he's dead, Alex died, then she's like, oh, for the first time, little sweet Melanie is in shock.
Explained just a little bit. And then he calls me back and says, he died. I'm like, what? That was that completely threw me. I was like, that, I had no concept of how that happened. None.
That completely threw her. She had no concept of how that happened. Oh, but with the others, you did have a concept, didn't you? With the other deaths, you were really surprised because you literally stood there hand in hand praying for their harm. And this woman has not been arrested.
At all. And I said, what happened? He said he didn't know. And I said, I'll talk to you later when I get back from my trip. We have a lot to talk about.
Your bishop didn't know any of the background.
No. Mm-mm. So I filled him in when we got back. He was very patient with me.
I bet that was quite a chat.
Yeah, he was very patient, but I was grateful it was him.
What did you think had happened to Alex?
I had many different ideas. I thought, did he kill himself? Did he did realize that I was going to tell the police. That was made known to him. And so I thought maybe he really, once he heard my doubt in all of this, maybe his heart was pricked. Maybe he realized that, oh my goodness, I've been a part of something that's not good. And I mean, those are different thoughts that I had.
Okay, so let me get this straight, sweet Melanie. The fact that you say to Alex that you don't believe in zombies. That's all it took for Alex to go, oh, wow. So it was not okay for me to kill my nephew and my niece and my brother-in-law and Chad's wife. Oh, wow, Melanie. Golly gee whiz, what did I do? That's what you're saying. You're literally saying that when you told Alex you didn't believe a lot of this, that he had this epiphany that killing his niece and nephew was probably not okay and he committed suicide. Really? You really think that? Or is this more of you trying to distance yourself from a group that you were actually absolutely well grounded in?
Or maybe, you know, somebody could have tried to kill him. I didn't know. I just really did not know. I was guessing all over the place, just like you were probably. How in the world did he die? I really didn't know. I mean, I asked the police, but they didn't tell me.
Well, we know that Alex died, according to the autopsy, of a blood clot in his lung.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there was anything suspicious there?
I don't know.
From what we understand, Alex would do anything for Lori. There was nothing too great for him to do. He loved his sister, and there was no task too good because his faith was so great in God. Yeah. Is that how your encounter with them was as far as their relationship?
I think mostly. I mean, I don't know if he'd do everything for her, but I think he would do a lot of things for him. I think he just felt like a
hilarious,
good brother, a big brother, kind of figured that wanted to protect his sister. I mean, they had a lot of fun joking around with each other.
For old sweet Melanie. We'll just call her Felony from now on.
Were you able to talk to Lori after her brother died, or was you had quit communication at that point?
Yeah.
Let's fast forward to January. You see them in Hawaii when we saw them at a beach resort. What did you think when you saw the video of me trying to talk to them outside of the resort?
It was hard. It's hard for me. It's just hard for me to watch the whole story. Like, yeah, I was in that place
too, Melanie. Felony.
Just like, oh, I don't even want to see the news right now. So, so when I saw that, I had many feelings. I thought, this does not look good for her. And, some of the thoughts I had is if these kids, and please, everybody use their own reasoning for this idea, but, if you really do believe your children are being harmed, or, you think they're going to be kidnapped and you're worried about them, you would be happy to tell anybody and everybody in the police about that. You would not talk and trying to, have no comment to you as you talk to them. I mean, you would say, I appreciate it. I would think you would interact if you really felt that I know if they were my kids and I had to put them in protection, I would be like, yeah, my kids are in protection because crazy people are going to go kill them or whatever. I would want you to know that, so that at least I didn't look like everybody was coming after me. I didn't think it looked good. It just made her look more guilty. That's what it looked like to me, both of them.
Where do you think the kids are?
They're not on this planet anymore. I don't think they are. That's my personal opinion. I know Tylee's a very strong-willed individual, and she's capable of making a phone call if she needs to call. And she hasn't reached out to anybody. And
look at that silly hand motion. What? I guess that's Felony's faux phone.
She needs to call, and she hasn't reached out to anybody and let anybody know she's alive. I can't imagine she would be quiet the whole time. I can't imagine it. JJ's a handful. He wouldn't have his medication with him, so how could she take care of him? Tylee and him.
Okay, I want you to think about this, y'all. So we're now getting a glimpse that Felony, Melanie, she can think. Like, most of us had gotten to a point we were thinking, okay, I just don't think Felony is very smart, right? You hear the way she talks about the zombies and the portal, and you just think, oh, felony, she's just not very smart, right? That's okay. Not everybody can be a rocket science. I'm not a rocket scientist. So we all kind of accept, well, she's just sort of ditzy, right? She's just not very observant or connected or whatever. But now she's letting us see that she can problem solve and think. We're listening to her as she voices her deductive reasoning skills. She's fine. Her brain is just fine, which really then truly opens up the door for, what the hell were you thinking? How did you stay involved with Team Chadster that long to be at that point where the cops are standing on your doorstep when JJ goes missing? What's wrong with you, felony Melanie? That is, she knew that it was all nonsense. Don't tell me she didn't. So I cannot believe that there have not been charges against this woman. I can't. Just like I couldn't believe that Nicole Kessinger too didn't have charges. I still can't believe that. I don't know. And then you got poor old Charlie Adelson cooling his heels for the next 50 years of his life because his sister wrote a damn book. Weird. It's very strange. The phone call was foiled because Chad has his pendulum oracle. Melly bought a new home in victimhood. You are being so clever tonight. Look at you go, girl.
They take care of each other, and it doesn't add up. If they're in a safe place, why is she in Hawaii having a great time on her honeymoon when her children are?
Those are all very good questions,
or hiding
Melanie.
in safety. That doesn't even make sense. I think most people understand that.
Yeah, they do,
so
Melanie.
Everybody's looking in at her going, what are you doing?
Wow.
Do you think Alex was somehow involved in wherever they are in their disappearance?
I think it's possible.
Jesus.
And that he would do that on behalf of his God or his sister?
His sister, I think. Or maybe also a higher reason. Maybe if he really truly believed these things, and maybe he felt like he was doing something good for not only them but God too, I guess.
The other Melanie has said that Lori has a plan, that she always has a plan, and that the kids are safe. Yeah. And Lori's mother and sister have also said that they believe that they're somewhere safe, and the reason they have not asked her where the kids are is because calls are being recorded and because she would not tell them.
I think that they want to believe Lori, and they want to be a support to her. I'm not sure all the reasons why they're saying what. I haven't watched much of, a lot of that footage, just a little bit. But sometimes when you know stuff, it's embarrassing to come forward with it, or you may get in trouble yourself. Well,
finally, a little bit of truth slips through Felony's lips, right? All right. I don't understand how she and David were not charged since they spent the night with Lori the night JJ was killed. Illuminated Inc., I agree. I couldn't agree more. This right here is probably the thing that I am most mystified by Melanie Gibb. They were there. They were there. And the next day, they were running around Rexburg looking at land that Chad and Lori were going to build their temple of light. Can't you see it? Can't you see it? And David Warwick's like, no, I can't. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not going to buy any land from you. You're crazy. He all but says that on the stand. So, what happened to turn things around so quickly? Because that's one of the reasons that they were there, was to look at this whole subcontractor issue that we later found out was about this so-called temple, the temple of the Chadster. It just defies logic. It's, what in the world are the cops thinking? They were there. Period. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Okay. We have been at this for 3 hours, my friends. 3 hours. We have been having fun with Dick and Jane. It has been a long video. You guys are troopers. I do have one question here. What do you guys think of my artwork? Are you feeling it, or is it just a little too dark and scary? If you like it, put a 1. If you think it's too dark and scary and I need to do something else, put a 2. Yeah, she totally tattled. Absolutely. Not scary enough. Thank you, Cheated No More. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Pam. All right, so I don't want to freak you guys out. It was 3 hours, Moonlight View. It was a lot. And then the GIF that I didn't, or not the GIF, but the MP4, I totally forgot to play it. Oh, why isn't it playing? Hold on, Houston, we have a problem. Where'd it go? Hold on. Hold on. That was the other one I made. And I forgot to play it. What do you think of that one? Oh my goodness. I did get the link. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Oh, Jeff H became a member. Thank you, Jeff H. Aren't you awesome? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Here is the link. I need to go back up. Hold on, let me go to the link. Where is it at? I think it was quite a ways back, wasn't it? Nope, here it is right here. They make it so hard. I can't follow a link. I've got to, oh, I know how to do it. I have to go to YouTube. I can do it through YouTube. Hold on. I got to get out of StreamYards. Stop. I got to go to StreamYard, go to my channel, go to my live, and I got to be sure to silence it or it'll drive me bananas. Oh my God, I'm going to be here all night. Maybe not. Let me see if I can find the link. There it is right there. Ha! She can be taught. Ooh, Kresha. This too is dark and scary. I wonder how long. Let's see. This is a 3-hour live. How far, Martian planet, how far down, just read the title. That's it. This is the 3-hour live that she did after showing the little short video she made. Okay, so the video where you can hear someone talk about sacrificing their child, is that in this video? There's a shorter version, but I can't find it. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, you guys. I'm going to watch Crush's video. I'll watch it through the whole thing and find the recording, and then we'll play it sometime tomorrow and kind of discuss it. Also, let me get the link to Crush's channel. If you guys have not been to her channel, here is the link. There you go. So the name of Crush's channel is Difficult Research, and she is actually the biological aunt of JJ. Her brother is JJ's father, biological father, right? So Cresha and Kay, she is Kay's daughter. So she has been really devoted ever since all this happened. Her uncle Charles Vallow was her uncle. She has been really devoted and dedicated to what's happening. She is searching desperately for answers. And just like anyone who really gets into this case, anyone who really begins to look at the individual pieces of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell and the acts of absolute horror that they committed, it's hard not to see the church. It's very difficult to avoid seeing the Mormon church. And I don't mean the good people that are part of the church. I'm not even talking about the various preachers and bishops and all that. I'm talking about there is something in between the likes of Lori and Chad and then the legitimate church. Now, sometimes Cresha disagrees tremendously with me on that. She feels like some of this demonic stuff reaches higher into the church. And I certainly respect her opinion. And as much research as she has done, I'm not going to disagree with her opinion. In fact, it's certain she knows far more than I do about some of this, like Jody Hildebrandt. And there are a lot of people that are a part of the Mormon religion that end up killing their families. A lot. Far more than you see in other religions. So how do you explain that? I don't know. And I'm not going to try to explain it other than just sometimes people are not okay. Sometimes mental illness is real. And for whatever reason, they're just not managing well. But Cresha, you got to respect the position she's in, and she's entitled to try to find answers for she and her family. And Lord knows she is a dedicated woman. So if you are going to watch the trial of Chad Daybell, and I hope that you will, if you are going to watch the trial, please do yourself a favor. Go over and start watching Crush's videos. She knows an awful lot. She has gone full-blown research on the influences of the Mormon church, and specifically Rexburg and Idaho. And if you're going to watch the trial, you're going to want to be familiar with the channel Difficult Research, featuring Charles Vallow's niece. Her name is Cresha. All right. And tell her that we sent y'all there because she's my friend. All right. You guys have a wonderful evening. It's almost the witching hour. So hurry up, end the live, go hang some garlic around your neck, light some candles before you go to bed at night, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Please click the subscribe button if you haven't already so that you'll know when we're going live, because I don't follow a regular schedule with my YouTube channel. And I hope you will hit the thumbs up. All right. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. We are going to continue down this dangerous path looking at this madman, Chad Daydell.